This raid kicks off with a massive dragon fight and the leader's already calling for buffs. Meet Biza, the Ranka shaman, looking way too chill with his fancy golden trinket. Then there is Rodish, the mage, getting yelled at to actually use his fire spells classic. A swordsman named Kurin orders Saki, the duelist, to find an opening and end this thing. But the leader's yelling at someone named Yuki to stay hidden, and oh, that is the dragon's name. Turns out he is yelling at our boy Yuki, a rank F nobody who just stammers in agreement. Meanwhile, the rankers unleash a coordinated fire blast, completely ignoring the F-rank distraction. Kurin follows up with a flurry of slashes, setting up the perfect shot for Saki. With the beast pinned down by his attack, he screams for her to strike now. Saki powers up her blade, ready to deliver the final, devastating blow from below. Her eyes glow with intense focus as she activates her ultimate skill, unleashing the luminous slash, a blinding beam of pure energy that slices through everything. This monster gets absolutely shredded by the attack, caught completely in the light. And just like that, the dragon is down, leaving the party in awe of S-rank power. Our boy Yuki is just fanboying hard, totally blown away by their effortless takedown. We get a quick history lesson. Dungeons have been a global disaster for decades, and adventurers are the only defense. Because so many dungeons are left uncleared, the monsters inside are going wild and causing chaos. On top of that, most hunters are just glorified mercenaries, farming monsters for cash instead of solving the root problem. It is left to a handful of elite parties like this one to actually try and conquer these deadly places for good. Just as Yuki's processing all this, a hand clamps down on his shoulder from behind. This guy who was just ordering Saki around now barks at Yuki for a healing potion, calling him a pack mule. Panicked, Yuki fumbles through his bag to grab a potion, stammering out a quick apology. A smug hooded blonde then chimes in, making it clear that they are the ones risking their lives here. Kurin keeps the trash talk going, saying he is shocked Saki would bring such a weak nobody to the party. They keep piling on, calling him a slow, magicless newbie, while Yuki just silently endures the lecture. This party leader finally cuts in, shutting down the chatter by reminding them this is an S-rank dungeon. His expression is grim as he tells them this is absolutely no place for messing around. Kurin and the hooded guy quickly apologize before the leader turns his full attention to Yuki. He tells our boy that if he's going to be part of the team, he needs to do his job properly. A bit stunned by the direct order, Yuki just manages to stammer out an agreement. In his head, Yuki admits they are right, he got distracted and was not acting like a proper adventurer. He was just way too excited seeing top-class adventurers fight, but knows there is so much he can learn. A look at his stats says it all: rank F, no job, no affiliation, their level is completely out of his league. Despite the gap, he vows to become an adventurer just like them, right as Saki approaches him. Saki gives him a stern warning without even looking back. Stay alert and do not get distracted on a quest. Her expression turns somber as she admits she does not want to lose any more family, and Yuki understands completely. Internally, he agrees, never wanting to go through an experience like that ever again. His mind flashes back 2 years to a district collapsing because of a massive dungeon outburst. A news report from that time shows a tragedy striking an orphanage, with little hope of finding survivors. We see a younger Yuki and a small girl watching the devastating news, a stark reminder of the growing dungeon problem. Yuki explains that he and Saki grew up together in an orphanage, surrounded by other kids. They both dreamed of becoming adventurers and eventually left to make that dream a reality. But the home they were supposed to return to was no longer safe. And everyone they knew there, the nuns, the staff, the other children, was lost when a dungeon disaster completely destroyed the entire building. That is why he is here now, determined to stop that kind of tragedy from ever happening again. Just then, a strange one-eyed monster appears right in front of him, while a sinister figure in the shadows gloats about finding the last piece for his plan. This sudden dark energy makes Yuki jump, completely on edge. He turns back to the party, who seem oblivious to the little creature nearby. But that monster suddenly activates, triggering some kind of spell. A massive blood-red magic circle erupts from the floor, trapping the entire party. This leader instantly recognizes it as a teleport trap and yells for everyone to brace themselves, as the shadowy figure welcomes his new guests with a twisted grin. This whole team is violently warped away in a flash of red light and dark energy. Kurin and the hooded guy are already freaking out, asking if they are in the boss room. Trying to regain control, the leader orders Yuki to get a return scroll ready, so much for a pack mule. Saki, however, crouches low, sensing that something is coming for them right now. Her eyes narrow as a single drop of blood splashes onto the stone floor. Then a foot steps directly into the spreading crimson pool. They are not alone. A ridiculously well-dressed man appears in a flash of red, casually wondering if he is the Demon King. Yuki is absolutely losing his mind, sweat pouring down his face at the sheer pressure. Turns out Demon King is the official title for S-rank dungeon bosses, the worst of the worst. Saki does not waste a single second, immediately lunging forward with her blade already glowing. This mage Rodish backs her up, calling on a powerful ice javelin spell to support the attack. He even triples the cast, sending a whole barrage of icy death their way. As the attacks rain down, the boss just looks up, completely bored by the effort. Saki follows through with her ultimate, the luminous slash, for the second time today, and the boss just stands there complaining about how young people have no manners. What a grandpa. All their powerful attacks are just frozen in midair, completely neutralized before they can even land. With a flick of his wrist, he shatters their spells, calling the entire party ignorant. Rodish gets sent flying by an invisible counterattack, screaming as he hits the ground hard. Meanwhile, a smug elf lady appears, just chilling on some magic circles like it is a picnic. She smirks, noting that an extra person got caught in their little teleport trap. Suddenly, a cat boy with a tail launches a flying kick at another new guy with blue hair. This blue-haired dude effortlessly blocks the attack with some kind of glowing energy shield. Even a guy in a hoodie and glasses joins the fray, revealing this is a full-on ambush. Behind him, the shadowy observer from before reveals himself, a smirking villain in a top hat. He tells them playtime is over as a massive, sinister magic circle activates beneath them. This white-haired man stands at the center, preparing the ritual to summon the real Demon King. This white-haired man screams as the ritual consumes him, dark tendrils dragging him down. Yuki can only watch in absolute horror as the summoning reaches its climax. With a final agonizing cry, the man is completely absorbed into the sinister magic circle. A single glowing red eye snaps open, signaling the arrival of something truly monstrous. This sheer pressure of this new presence forces the entire party to their knees. Even the villains who set this up are bowing, which feels like a slight oversight in their master plan. But the original Demon King just stands there looking completely unbothered by the whole affair. This party leader knows they are toast, realizing they are about to get completely wiped out. He desperately searches for any kind of opening, but their enemy seems absolutely invincible. On the ground, Yuki realizes his own unique power. Golden time is about to be annihilated. He clutches his bag, absolutely refusing to let another tragedy like his past happen again. Deciding to finally act like a real adventurer, he reaches for something inside his pack. He pulls out a strange device, his eyes burning with a newfound determination. With a flick of his thumb, the object sparks to life with a brilliant golden light. An enormous, intricate clockwork of pure energy suddenly materializes around them. Yuki announces the start of a return sequence, leaving his teammates completely stunned. As the golden gears turn, a countdown for this mysterious ability officially begins. Our boy then summons a golden sword and points it right at the Demon King. He declares himself the boss's new opponent, stepping up to protect everyone else. This Demon King just looks down with a smug grin, vaguely intrigued by the F-rank's sudden spine. This hooded guy immediately starts yelling that Yuki's grandstanding is moving him out of the escape range. Saki is absolutely frantic, screaming Yuki's name as the party leader watches with a grim expression. Then it clicks for her, he is sacrificing himself as the countdown ticks down to 3. A powerful golden light starts dragging her and the leader back toward the portal away from Yuki. Even one of the villains seems confused by this, demanding to know what is happening. And just like that, our boy is standing completely alone, facing the entire enemy squad. This party leader gives a single cold good, apparently totally cool with leaving the kid to die. Meanwhile, the Catboy villain realizes their main targets have actually escaped. He immediately blames the blue-haired guy, slamming him with a fiery punch for the failure. Pinning him to the ground, he demands to know his real plan as the countdown hits 2. This blue-haired guy just smirks from the floor, holding a strange device and asking if it is not obvious. He then yeets the glowing object right at the Demon King, so much for team loyalty. As the timer hits 1, the Demon King finally seems to be piecing the whole scheme together. That device projects a final, painful memory of the orphanage staff for Saki to see. Turns out the blue-haired guy's only goal was to figure out how to defeat his own boss. With a final determined look, he crushes the device, unleashing a massive burst of light. This Demon King actually looks impressed by the betrayal, calling it a splendid decision. Right on schedule, the massive golden clockwork countdown finally hits 0. In a brilliant flash, the entire rank party is forcibly teleported out of the dungeon. Yuki is left behind coughing up blood, watching Saki get pulled away while screaming his name. Bloodied but resolute, Yuki faces his end with a grim little smirk. As she is pulled away by the golden light, Saki screams his name in a final, desperate plea. This portal vanishes, leaving our boy kneeling alone before the entire villain squad talk about a party. This Demon King saunters over, mockingly asking if this was Yuki's grand plan to defeat him. Yuki just smirks back, confirming that yeah, the plan was to get the actual high rankers out alive. He is confident that if they survive, they will eventually come back and clear this whole dungeon. His only regret is leaving Saki behind, but his face shows he has made peace with it. This Demon King just bursts out laughing, absolutely delighted by this human's plan to die for the future. Calling it magnificent madness, his expression shifts as he focuses on our boy, Human. Then, in a total twist, he extends a hand and offers to make a deal. Yuki is completely thrown, barely able to process the offer as the boss's hand hovers before him. With a flash of fangs, the Demon King simply confirms it with a confident yes. This offer is simple: join his crew and help them conquer other dungeons, a villainous job application. Our boy is floored, asking why monsters would even bother with conquering other dungeons. This Demon King hits him with the ultimate Uno reverse, claiming they are the ones constantly threatened by human invaders. Yuki's face just screams, "Dude, that is our line, not yours." He insists they'd leave humans alone if adventurers would just stop breaking into their homes. In fact, he claims it is the monsters who suffer all the casualties, even mentioning the dragon they just killed. Yuki's mind flashes back to the dungeon's S-rank warning, trying to square this new, twisted perspective. To defend themselves, the Demon King explains they need to get stronger by taking out other dungeon bosses. This Demon King claims he is just trying to stop any more tragedies from happening to his subordinates. That one word, tragedies, hits Yuki right where he lives, echoing his own trauma. He realizes this monster's motivation is exactly the same as his, a twisted mirror image. With his hand still out, the boss confirms he will even team up with humans to protect his people. Yuki's mind flashes to Saki, understanding the desperate need to protect your family at any cost. Clenching his fist, he tries to negotiate. If he joins, will they swear to only repel humans, not kill them? This boss explains their goal is just to get so strong that humans will finally leave them alone. When Yuki questions if he can be trusted, the Demon King gives him a simple choice: join or die. He then twists the knife, saying Yuki's death will just lead to more humans dying in this dungeon. Our boy thinks of his party, knowing that until they can clear this place, the body count will rise. This memory of his burning orphanage returns, terrified of letting that kind of disaster happen again. Defeated, he finally caves and agrees to help the Demon King's cause. He grabs the boss's hand, sealing their incredibly sketchy new partnership with a tense grip. But Yuki makes one thing clear: he is not doing this for monsters, he is doing it for humanity. This Demon King looks absolutely thrilled by this, his whole crew of weirdos smirking in the background. With a confident smile, he officially declares Yuki their new ally. Welcome to the dark side, kid. Our boy's insecurity immediately kicks in, asking if they really want a guy with no job class. Gripping his hand tighter, the boss says that is exactly why he is so important to their plan. And here is the bombshell: the monster tamer job can only be unlocked by someone with no job. This other monsters grin with glowing eyes, happy to make use of an incompetent human like him. But Yuki flips the script, declaring he is the one who is going to master them, not the other way around. With a death grip on his own hands, he doubles down on his new goal: he will master these monsters. This Demon King just smirks back, totally confident that they are the ones about to exploit a useless human. He explains that monsters cannot just waltz into other dungeons, they need a human summoner to get in. And here is the kicker: condition number 1 for becoming a monster tamer is having no job class at all. Condition 2 is simple enough: you have to actually form a contract with a monster, which he just did. Apparently there are 3 ways to do that: beat them in a fight, have a nice chat, or this boss just keeps holding his hand, leaving everyone hanging on that third option. Which turns out to be by force, said with the most disarmingly sweet smile ever. What a psycho. Suddenly, dark energy surges into Yuki, who starts screaming as the contract is forcibly sealed. He is yelling about how much it hurts as a glowing magical brand burns itself onto his hand. Our boy can only sweat bullets, realizing he has been completely railroaded into this deal. Then the Demon King reveals the fine print. He can now see everything Yuki sees, like a built-in spy cam. This means all his actions are totally exposed, and they have definitely got a plan for if he tries to betray them. He cannot ask anyone for help now. This was his choice, and he has to see it through alone. With a casual snap of his fingers, the Demon King moves on to the next phase of his plan. He declares the preparations for conquest are complete, with Yuki now officially their pawn. Our boy is totally lost, but the boss just says he is sending him back to the surface now. His mission is simple: go into any dungeon, and when the time is right, summon the whole crew. Staring at the brand on his hand, Yuki can only repeat the words, wondering what that right time will be. Suddenly back with his party, Yuki is already stressing about the Demon King's vague instructions. Saki just stares, completely stunned and relieved to see him alive and in one piece. He gives her a weak, reassuring wave, trying to play it cool after, almost dying. That act lasts about 2 seconds before she tackles him in a full-body hug, knocking them both down. She is just sobbing into his shoulder, completely overwhelmed with emotion as he awkwardly holds her. As the rest of the party watches, the two have their emotional reunion in the dungeon's golden glow. This very next day, Yuki heads straight to the Adventurers Guild, ready to start his secret mission. But the receptionist immediately gives him the side-eye, asking if he is really planning a dungeon run alone. Our boy's already hitting a bureaucratic wall as she explains that going solo is super suspicious. Apparently there has been a recent spike in adventurers with less than noble intentions. She is talking about treasure hunters who are only in it for the cash, not the actual conquest. And thanks to these greedy looters, monster rampages have been happening way more often. To stop them, the guild put all dungeons under strict entry restrictions, basically a total lockdown. She then points to the paperwork, ready to drop even more rules on our poor guy, explaining that is what the whole ranking system is for, to keep people in their place. Your rank only goes up with guild-verified contributions, which they cannot confirm if you are working solo, which means the guild cannot just approve random solo adventurers, leaving Yuki totally stumped. Besides, she adds, the only people who go solo are usually desperate for cash, not glory. Yuki quickly clarifies he wants an F-rank dungeon for training, not to get rich quick. After a moment, the receptionist stops typing, simply saying she understands his reasoning. She offers him the perfect starter zone, an F-rank dungeon called the Silent Labyrinth. It is a beginner-friendly place with very few monsters, so she can register him for it. A guild staffer then sends him on his way to conquer the place. Good luck, kid. Inside, Yuki scoffs at the so-called strict security, which is just a single panic button. Suddenly, the Demon King's voice pops into his head, asking what a neglected dungeon is, and our boy is freaked, realizing the voice is speaking directly into his mind, a new, unwelcome feature. Turns out, telepathy is a basic monster tamer skill, which is news to Yuki since he has never used a skill before. He figures out it is an automatic skill that is useful but feels incredibly invasive. This Demon King explains that neglected dungeons are just places nobody bothers to clear anymore. Apparently because only dungeons with valuable resources get any real attention from adventurers. This means monsters are just left to breed unchecked until the whole place eventually collapses. Yuki looks over the map, thinking that makes sense, but something still feels very wrong here. As he walks, he notices it is completely empty and the Demon King chimes in that this is boring. His suspicion grows. Even for a weak dungeon, this level of quiet is just not normal. Then, right on cue, the entire dungeon starts shaking violently with a strange green glow. From somewhere ahead, another adventurer's terrified scream echoes through the halls. Run! It is the dungeon boss, a massive green slime crashing down on two other poor adventurers. Leaving our boy to stare in shock as the terrified duo scrambles past him, fleeing the giant slime. This Demon King's voice calmly explains that with no humans to eat, it has been eating other monsters, and that is why the dungeon is empty and also why this boss is now horrifyingly oversized. Yuki yells at the two terrified adventurers, trying to guide them to safety, but the massive slime monster is right on their heels, about to swallow one of them whole. This woman gets caught in the green goo, screaming that she is completely stuck. In a flash, the slime fully engulfs her as her partner just watches in horror. She is completely submerged, eyes wide with terror as she is being digested. Desperate, Yuki asks the Demon King if summoning him would work but gets a hard no. The backlash would kill her too. Our boy is sweating bullets, realizing his one big power move is totally useless here. Meanwhile, the adventurer is still trapped, struggling for air inside the monster. Then a crazy idea hits Yuki, a real last-ditch probably gonna die kind of plan. With no other options, he decides to go with his gut and just charge forward. And by charge forward, I mean he dives headfirst into the giant acid jello monster. What a hero. Back in his lair, the Demon King is having a great time watching this, laughing that this is more like it. His voice echoes in Yuki's mind, saying he knew our boy would choose to save someone even at his own expense. Swimming through the slime, Yuki finally reaches the trapped woman. This Demon King's commentary continues, praising him for being exactly the kind of self-sacrificing guy he expected. Holding the now unconscious adventurer, Yuki decides this is the right time to call for backup. He slams his branded hand and screams the Demon King's name, unleashing a torrent of red energy. Responding to the call, the Demon King's hand materializes through a portal of dark magic. His new boss appears behind him, grandly announcing he will allow Yuki to be his master for now. And just like that, the Demon King is summoned, standing there like a final boss in a beginner's dungeon. This backlash from the summon hits Yuki hard, and he is already in agony from channeling the power. With blood streaming from his eyes, he feels like his entire body is being burned from the inside out. His new boss's spectral form just tells him not to break. Great pep talk, dude. This Demon King is already complaining that this is all the power he can muster through a human so demanding. Together, they gather a frankly absurd amount of purple energy for one little slime monster. Yuki and his demonic partner then unleash their joint attack, the Chaotic Wolf, Dawn, which is basically a giant dungeon-clearing laser beam of pure destruction. That oversized slime gets completely atomized, dissolving into nothing as the blast hits. Staring at the aftermath, Yuki understands this was not an attack, it was an annihilation. This woman he just saved can only stare in abject terror, completely horrified by the display. She calls the whole thing a disaster, which is a pretty accurate review of the situation. Her partner just gawks at Yuki, trying to process how a beginner just pulled that off. He then notices Yuki is bleeding everywhere and rightly freaks out about getting him to a doctor. Our boy is so out of it he barely registers his own injuries before his body starts to give out. His vision blurs, the faces of the people he saved fading as the adrenaline wears off. And just like that, he collapses, unconscious on the dungeon floor. A few days later, Yuki finds himself summoned back to the Endless Abyss dungeon. He is checking out his new E-rank card, which he apparently earned while taking a nap in the hospital. Turns out the two adventurers he rescued carried him out and filed the conquest report for him. Talk about full service. This Demon King, however, is just sipping wine, asking why he looks so gloomy when this calls for a celebration. Yuki's not buying the celebration talk, pointing out all he did was call for help. This Demon King corrects him, calling for help was literally his only asterisk option in that moment. He explains that even when cornered, Yuki chose to save a stranger instead of himself. Without a second thought, our boy just seized a different, much more self-destructive option. His new boss praises that reckless strength, offering him a glass of wine like a proud, evil dad. Yuki actually accepts the drink, trying to look like he belongs in this demonic throne room. But the Demon King warns him that constantly flirting with death is not a sustainable plan. He introduces Elvina, an undead maid, who formally pledges to serve her new master. Our boy is a little flustered, commenting on how cool-headed she seems. Oh, you sweet summer child. She immediately misreads the room, thinking he has fallen in love at first sight, because of course she does. Elvina then clarifies she has no heartbeat because she is undead, striking a sparkly, undeadly pose. This three of them just stand there, a human, a demon lord, and a zombie maid having a wine party. Yuki asks if this is even okay, and the Demon King's logic is simple. I am stronger, so it is fine. Then Elvina drops a terrible undead pun, claiming she is aiming to be a relatable maid, mission failing successfully. This next lesson is leveling up, because Yuki needs to be strong enough to summon the boss without exploding. His training partners are a bunch of raging fire elementals in a new E-rank dungeon. and Elvina just wades in, casually punching a fire monster into oblivion with a simple take that. Yuki can only stare, realizing his new undead maid is ridiculously overpowered for this place. She just strikes a victory pose, explaining that this is just basic, capable maid stuff, obviously. This whole absurd situation makes Yuki smile, reminding him of a kid from his orphanage. This memory is of a girl from his past, asking a much younger Yuki if he thought something was awesome. Yuki smiles at the fond thought, but the feeling seems a little bittersweet now. Suddenly, he is back in reality, absolutely losing it as level-up notifications spam his entire screen. Elvina just hangs there, asking if complaining about free power is some kind of living person privilege thing. He notes that keeping her summoned is way easier than calling the Demon King. She explains that is because the big boss is a premium summon and Yuki's mana only afforded a partial delivery. Our boy recalls getting just the Demon King's fingers, talk about an incomplete order. In contrast, she is the budget-friendly model, complete with a sparkly sail sign to prove it. Yuki genuinely thanks her, admitting she is a massive help in his training arc, and she gets all flustered behind her sign, clearly not used to the praise. This makes Yuki realize that mana efficiency is just as important as raw power for a summoner. They finally reach the boss room and Yuki comments that the door looks a little heavy. Elvina just stops him, winding up for a punch with a knowing look on her face, and then she absolutely demolishes the entire door with a single earth-shattering blow, before calmly explaining that one must always knock before entering, a masterclass in etiquette. Inside the dungeon boss, a knight with a flaming sword is waiting for them. Elvina politely steps forward, announcing their arrival with a calm "excuse us." Then she kneels, asking the knight to become their offering, which is not a great sign. This boss immediately raises its fiery blade, ready to strike her down as she kneels. But Yuki draws his own sword, yelling for them to wait, clearly not a fan of the whole human sacrifice strategy. Yuki immediately clocks that the boss's flaming sword is glowing with a different kind of energy. He screams Elvina's name, diving to shove her out of the way of the incoming attack. His quick move just barely saves her from the knight's holy blade as it smashes into the ground, and Elvina seems genuinely surprised that her master just put himself on the line for her. After checking she is okay, she praises him for his quick thinking, as expected of her master. She then asks how he knew the sword was using holy fire, which is basically undead kryptonite. Our boy just explains that the flames look totally different from everything else in the dungeon. In fact, it reminded him of the light a girl from his past named Saki used to use. Elvina confirms that holy power is her natural enemy, making this fight incredibly dangerous for her. She tries to crack a joke about her heart racing, but Yuki's already yelling that they need to run. But it is too late, as the night boss raises its sword, preparing to cast a spell from its throne. A massive fire circle sanctuary erupts around them, trapping them in a ring of holy flame. Elvina grimly notes that this boss is just as serious as the Demon King and will not let them escape. Desperate, Yuki considers summoning Liber for backup, looking down at his branded hand. But she reminds him he only has enough mana to keep one summon active, and she is it. With no other options, Yuki realizes it is down to just the two of them to fight their way out. She is genuinely impressed, commenting that a tamer fighting to protect his monster is unheard of. Yuki just tells her it is simple, of course he'd protect her because she is his partner. Totally fired up by his words, she gets into a fighting stance, ready to go all out. Together, they resolve to show this boss exactly what all their recent level grinding was for. Elvina gets a fiery aura, ready to throw down herself if it comes to that, looking absolutely serious. Back in the fire pit, Yuki tells her to hold on because he has just had a brilliant idea. He remembers that all his recent level up should have unlocked at least one new skill for him, and he finds it the incredibly subtle machine gun Evil Eye, which sounds totally balanced. With his new analysis skill active, he stares down the holy night as light swirls around him. His eye scans the boss, confirming its fire holy attributes and a nasty anti-darkness passive. Yikes. Elvina wonders what is up just as his scan reveals the knight is about to unleash a big attack. A massive danger alert flashes in his vision while the boss powers up its holy fire. Yuki screams for them to dodge as the entire area is about to be engulfed in flames, and he tackles his maid out of the blast zone just in the nick of time, a true gentleman. He explains his new eye can read a monster's stats and even predict how dangerous it is. Elvina just calls it a basic tamer skill, the all-seeing eye, and sincerely thanks him for the save. But their little chat is cut short as the knight winds up for another fiery assault. Now that she knows he can watch her back, Elvina decides it is time to go on the offensive. She charges straight at the heavily armored boss, closing the distance in a flash. Then she leaps into the air, delivering a devastating-looking kick right to its chest. With Yuki calling out the attacks, she can now focus entirely on dishing out damage. This knight just stands there and takes the hit, barely even flinching from the impact. Yuki watches in disbelief, realizing something is seriously wrong with this picture. Because despite all that power, Elvina's attack did absolutely no damage whatsoever. Yuki's new eye skill reveals a critical weakness. The boss is just a fire monster in a suit of armor. Elvina's just like, yeah, it is a fire monster, we established that, totally missing the point. But our boy's analysis goes deeper, seeing the true nature of the fire within the shell. He realizes the armor is just a container, so hitting it does absolutely nothing to the actual monster. With their new strategy set, Elvina tells him to just focus on his job and not worry about her. Just in time, too, because the knight winds up for another massive, fiery swing. Yuki immediately starts playing navigator, yelling for her to jump right to dodge the attack. He becomes her personal GPS for this fight, calling out every single move the boss makes. She flawlessly dodges every attack, leaping over flames erupting from the ground on his command. Now he is calling out weak spots, directing her strikes with pinpoint accuracy. Elvina goes straight for the head, aiming to finally land a decisive blow. And for the first time, the knight actually flinches, barely dodging her attack. As the boss retaliates with a wide swing, Yuki yells for her to get back. She is shocked it even moved, but Yuki points out it was a dodge, not a block. Straining his eye to its limit, he calls out one last dodge to the right. His vision blurs as he pushes himself, tracking the next attack with everything he has got. An explosion rocks the room, and Elvina has to carry him out of the blast, scolding him for his recklessness. Our boy can only offer a weak apology, clearly exhausted from the effort. Seeing him at his limit, Elvina offers a new solution. He should use her asterisk skill. Yuki looks up, completely confused by what that could possibly mean. Yuki scrolls through her skill list, completely baffled by one called Maid of All Wild. She explains that as a tamer, he can literally borrow his monster's skills for himself. This particular one gives a massive but temporary boost to all her stats. He realizes it is a one-shot deal, meaning he has to pick the absolute perfect moment to use it. Elvina just gives him a smug little smile, totally confident he will nail the timing. With the plan set, Yuki declares they are ending this with the very next attack. Just then, his danger sense goes absolutely berserk as the knight unleashes a flurry of slashes. Our boy is back on GPS duty, yelling for her to dodge a combo attack to the right. Then he screams for her to stop on a dime, planting her feet just in time. Before sliding left to avoid another wave of holy fire, this is some serious teamwork. But the boss is not just targeting her, sending a massive blade of light right at Yuki. And he takes a nasty hit, coughing up blood as he collapses to the ground. Even with a face full of dirt, he tells her not to worry about him, still calling out dodges as the knight swings its sword down on her position. This is it, he activates her skill, channeling the power through his summoner's mark, sending a surge of energy into Elvina, who launches herself into the air for a devastating dive kick, which connects with enough force to shatter the entire floor of the boss room. After the dust settles, the holy knight is just slumped against the wall, completely defeated. Yuki collapses, totally spent but relieved, whispering that they actually pulled it off. Elvina confirms that using the skill is a massive drain, walking over to her exhausted master. Elvina says her goodbyes, fading away in a shower of pink light, a very dramatic exit. On the floor, Yuki cannot even stand, desperately telling her to wait as she vanishes from sight. His summoner's mark goes dim, and he realizes she is completely gone, not even answering his call. Somehow he manages to drag himself back to Liber's dungeon where the Demon King is waiting. Liber just calmly says it is good to see him alive, which is a bit of an understatement. But Yuki's only concern is finding Elvina so he can give her a piece of his mind about disappearing. This Demon King just gestures him toward a brightly lit chamber in the back of the room. Liber adds that if he had not made it back, he would not have gone to see her again at all. And there she is, lying peacefully on a bed of flowers, not at all what Yuki was expecting. Liber explains this is how they honor their dead, casually dropping a nuke on our boy's entire world. This kid is just stunned, unable to process why Elvina, his partner, is dead. It is then that Liber reveals her true nature, an undead maid who trades her own life for power. This skill description flashes in his mind, the uses, one finally making horrifying sense. It all crashes down on him as he realizes she paid for their victory with her own life. He completely breaks down, screaming that he never asked her to sacrifice herself for him. Liber cuts him off, saying he understands, saving the dungeon was the goal, no matter the cost. To the Demon King, her sacrifice was worth it to protect their home from humans. He explains that she simply gave her all for a cause she believed in, nothing more. In fact, the Demon King declares that as her ruler, the ultimate responsibility is his. But Yuki, standing over her, refuses to let him take the blame, insisting it is all his fault. Yuki stares down at Elvina's body, blaming himself for just going along with her plan. This failure triggers a painful memory of his past defeat, feeling just as helpless as before. He completely breaks down, crying that once again he was just too weak to protect someone important. But Liber offers a solution. He will make Yuki strong enough to summon the Demon King himself. Ignoring him, Yuki desperately searches for a tamer skill to resurrect Elvina, convinced one has to exist. This Demon King coldly shuts him down, explaining that monsters are tools to be consumed, not recovered. That brutal dose of reality finally sinks in, leaving our boy absolutely crushed. Just then, a woman in a purple cloak arrives, telling Liber to stop being so mean. She is followed by a maid named May, who mentions they have already reached a conclusion on this. May then points out with a smug little smile that Yuki was not part of their everyone discussion, was he? Immediately, Yuki activates his evil eye, recognizing her as one of the dungeon's executives. His scan reveals her title, her attributes, and a skill that stops his heart, resurrection from a corpse. This kid is just stunned silent as the danger alert from his eye blares in his vision. May gives him a sly look, teasingly asking if he wants to hear about her little resurrection trick. Overwhelmed with a sudden surge of hope, Yuki asks if Elvina can actually be brought back. He realizes that with this skill, there is a real chance to save his partner after all. This head maid seems impressed he can see her abilities, figuring it saves her an explanation. But Yuki clarifies he can only see the skill's name and that there are conditions attached. Liber explains that is normal for a new skill and just orders May to lay out the details for him. so Mei formally introduces herself, ready to explain the miracle he has been praying for. Mei cheerfully explains her job is basically dungeon management and handling backup resurrections. That last part hits Yuki like a ton of bricks, the words backup resurrection echoing in his mind. She then shows him a grim vision of a slaughtered dragon, reminding him why her skill is so necessary. Her whole purpose is to be the ultimate insurance policy, making sure no one stays dead for long. But Yuki's not falling for the sales pitch, pointing out his eye saw some serious conditions attached. Mei starts with the first catch. The skill is a massive mana guzzler, wildly inefficient to use. She then uses him as an example, asking him to imagine the cost of bringing back a single human. This price tag is revealed to be the mana equivalent of an entire S-rank dungeon floor just for him. His mind races, realizing if a human costs that much, the price for a monster like Elvina will be astronomical. With a creepy little smile, Mei confirms that reviving her would literally shrink their entire dungeon. Yuki immediately gets the terrifying implication: a smaller dungeon is a much easier target for invaders. Apparently, the woman in the purple cloak was against this plan for that exact reason, fearing more losses. Our boy then asks the obvious question: cannot they just save up mana over a long period of time? But here comes condition number 2, you cannot revive someone whose mana is gone, and Elvina's is on a 10-day timer, so they need a huge amount of mana from an outside source and they need it yesterday. Mei's smug expression returns as she confirms he is finally catching on to the problem. Her grand plan is to send Yuki on a little field trip to conquer a nice, big dungeon for them. It all clicks for Yuki. They are going to steal mana from other dungeons to fuel her resurrection skill. This cloaked woman chimes in, admitting this is their strategy, but the dungeons they have hit so far are too weak. He asks just how much they need if low-ranked dungeons are useless, but Mei just shrugs, feigning ignorance. Mei casually mentions her plan to send Yuki to a big dungeon was shot down because everyone thought he'd die. Turns out, they are not keen on throwing the key to Elvina's plan back into mortal danger so soon. But Yuki clenches his fist, telling Liber to let him go anyway. He is all in. This demon king calls it reckless, pointing out that at his current level, he'd just follow Elvina to the grave. Our boy agrees he has no plan, but if this is the only way to save her, he is taking it. With a look of pure steel, he declares that he simply cannot choose any other path. He even reminds Liber that this is the whole reason they made a contract in the first place. Liber has to admit he is right, but there is a definite however coming. Suddenly, a new guy in a suit appears and some blood conveniently spatters on the grass near him. This newcomer, Vint, flares with red energy, announcing that he will be the one to train Yuki. Yuki instantly recognizes him as the absolute monster who was fighting Saki before. Mei points out Vint was on the pro-conquest side, but he argues Yuki is too weak to be of any use. After a tense moment, Liber just looks at him and says, "Understood," sealing the deal. He then entrusts Yuki to Vint for the next 7 days. A training arc is officially on. Vint does not waste a second, immediately telling the kid to come with him. And Yuki, bless his heart, just eagerly runs after him, totally ready for whatever hell is coming. Mei is just relieved Vint is taking over, and Liber tells her to follow them. We learn that this Vint guy was actually dead set against using humans until the very end. He gives Yuki a look that strongly suggests this training might be lethal. Mei's reaction to this murder stare is a cute little owa, which is perfectly on brand for her. Vint immediately teleports them to the training grounds, a glowing magic circle flaring to life. They arrive in a breathtaking courtyard under a starry sky, leaving Yuki wondering if this is even still the dungeon. His new trainer explains this is his personal floor, a little perk granted by the Demon King himself. He then casually mentions Yuki is the first human to ever see it, telling him to consider it an honor, no pressure. This whole grand setup is basically a giant mana battery, which just shows how desperate they are for this resurrection. Our boy then asks if training just means a good old-fashioned power leveling session, but Vince scoffs at the idea, explaining that a human leveling up is just a polite term for stealing mana. He clarifies that adventurers are basically parasites, damaging the dungeon just by fighting and absorbing its energy. And here's the catch: since Yuki is contracted to Liber, he is part of their mana pool, so he cannot level up here. With that mystery solved, Yuki asks the obvious question: how exactly is this training supposed to work then? Vince's answer is to simply materialize a sword out of thin air right in front of the kid. Yuki grabs it, thinking, oh, a gear upgrade, which is an adorably wrong assumption. His trainer immediately goes full drill sergeant, saying they have a lot to cover because Yuki has zero foundation. He then proceeds to list off all of Yuki's shortcomings: no skills, no knowledge, and absolutely no talent. Our boy is just stunned by the sudden verbal beatdown, completely caught off guard. Vince's eyes glow as he lays out the terms. To get Elvina back, he has to build everything he is missing from scratch. And with that, the training begins as Vint unleashes an absolute storm of attacks. Yuki is already struggling to block, realizing he cannot even stop to think or he will be overwhelmed. As Vint continues his lecture, he points out that leaving everyone's fate in such weak hands is unacceptable. Yuki thinks the guy is literally trying to kill him, but Vint clarifies that is not exactly what he means. Yet. Vint clarifies that if Yuki fails, he is just going to give up on him, no refunds. In fact, he says it'd be better for the dungeon if Yuki just died, which is super motivating. Our boy grits his teeth, realizing this guy sees him as completely and utterly expendable. This first lesson is simple, just survive for 3 hours by constantly dodging lethal blows, and the training begins with an immediate full-power assault because warm-ups are for the weak. But Yuki screams back that he will gladly put his life on the line to save Elvina. He immediately activates his ruinous evil eye, his one and only special move. His scan picks up Vince's attribute in a skill called Blood Blossom Beautiful Blade, very fancy. Unfortunately, the power gap is so massive his eye cannot even read Vince's full stats. This gives him a new idea, use the eye as a simple danger detector to find safe spots. Vin immediately calls him out, asking if that is really the only trick up his sleeve. A single devastating slash comes flying, forcing Yuki to dive for his life as danger flashes. Amazingly, he starts weaving through the attacks, earning a condescending not bad from Vin. His trainer is still unimpressed though, calling his movements sloppy and full of wasted energy. Yuki is already at his limit, struggling just to keep up with the relentless assault. When he finally tries a counterattack, Vint blocks it without even breaking a sweat. This kid is stunned, realizing he cannot even create an opening to catch his breath. Vint sends him flying with a kick, criticizing him for being too slow to decide his next move. This drill sergeant explains that reacting asterisk after asterisk you are blocked is like asking the enemy to wait for you. Completely cornered, Yuki scrambles for a new plan as the attacks just keep coming. Deciding defense is for losers, Yuki finally goes on the offensive with a desperate lunge. Vint just blocks it cold, pointing out that trying to attack will not change the outcome one bit. With a single, casual slash, he completely overpowers Yuki's strike, not even a contest, but the old guy actually seems a little intrigued by the attempt. He even offers a backhanded compliment, admitting Yuki's movements are a bit better now. Our boy explains he is using his evil eye to see Vint's sword path and block more efficiently. Turns out his eye can copy a monster's movements for an instant, not just read stats. So Vint finally gets it, the kid is not just reacting, he is actively analyzing and learning. Of course, he immediately follows this up with a classic, but it is still not enough. He lectures that their builds and sword skills are fundamentally on different levels. And as Yuki gets a nice new cut on his face, a horrifying thought starts to sink in. He realizes Vint has been holding back this entire time, for asterisk years in fact. Now Yuki's body is wrecked, his danger markers are going crazy, and he is at his absolute limit. His eye confirms the worst, that last move used 0 mana, just pure terrifying swordsmanship. But if Vint's on another level, Yuki just decides he will have to catch up, simple as that. Vint watches this display, ready to find out if it is courage or just terminal recklessness. Getting into a serious stance, he announces it is time for the real test to begin. He then unleashes a massive skill, flooding the area with a storm of red energy. Yuki's vision is completely overwhelmed, flooded with so many danger alerts he cannot see a thing. He realizes that if he cannot get any actual info from the warnings, he is absolutely done for. Realizing the danger spam is useless, Yuki tries to force his eye to focus on actual skill data. He is desperately filtering out the noise for any information that will actually keep him alive. And it works, his eye scans Vint's Blood Blossom Beautiful Blade, a skill that weaponizes blood into radial attacks. Vint calmly announces the name of his technique, ready to end this little warm-up for good. With a fresh cut on his face, Yuki braces for impact, his eye glowing with the freshly stolen data. This attack hits like a freight train, completely engulfing our boy in a whirlwind of crimson blades. After all that chaos, Vint just stands there looking mildly bored as if nothing happened. Yuki is left a crumpled mess on the shattered ground with his trainer inspecting the damage like a disappointed dad. He then jolts awake in a very comfy bed, extremely confused and surprisingly not dead. Vint is just chilling in a chair nearby, casually informing him that his near-death experience is over. Without missing a beat, the old man closes his book and tells Yuki it is time to get back to it. Yuki's mind flashes back to taking that insane skill head-on, trying to figure out how he is still breathing. Vint explains May patched him up. Since he was only mostly dead, it was a bargain bin heal. Turns out in that final moment, our boy was not just defending, he was trying to imitate Vint's move. This old swordsman admits he saw the kid trying to steal his technique right before getting absolutely flattened, and that desperate, reckless copy attempt was apparently impressive enough to make Vint want to see more. So he announces the survival test is over, and now the proper training begins, much to Yuki's horror. This proper training involves fighting a small army of monsters all at once, because of course it does. Our boy can only sweat bullets, realizing he just graduated from one-on-one murder practice to a group project. Vint stands before a dragon and its minions, telling Yuki to just handle them lightly, a true master of understatement. Our boy reflects on how he has gotten used to this whole ordeal, which is his new philosophy that dying is just a normal Tuesday. And then suddenly he is in a butler outfit, wondering what is happening to his life, because his new training is apparently serving tea to a very unimpressed goblin. Vint explains this is all about efficiency, a true master wastes 0 movement, comparing it to a butler's work where even a single tremor is a total failure, telling Yuki he needs to master his body and more importantly that special eye of his. Our boy gets it, he needs to evolve his skill, not just use it blindly. And his first assignment is to read a room full of monsters and figure out what they all want. So Yuki decides he will just start by copying Vint's perfect movements, easy enough right. Vint demonstrates with a flawless tea pour, looking like the world's most dangerous butler. Every single motion precise, controlled, and frankly a little intimidating. and he finishes with a look that says, "Your turn, kid, do not mess this up." Yuki tries to copy him by balancing a comically large stack of plates with a huge grin, which immediately shatters into a million pieces because of course it does. While cleaning up his mess, he realizes just seeing a move is not enough to replicate it. He has to adapt Vince's techniques to his own body, not just be a cheap knockoff. This next day, he is greeted by a whole new welcoming committee of monsters. A big red demon notes that he is the new guy Vint has taken an interest in, which to him means one thing: Yuki must be strong and he is ready for a fight. Yuki clarifies he is not strong yet asterisk, but he is fully planning on getting there starting right now. This big red demon roars that he will be the trainer, then immediately throwing a haymaker. Our boy decides his special eye will just have to make up for his pathetic lack of stamina, and he throws a punch of his own, meeting the monster's attack head-on. His new plan is to watch all the monsters, test his eye's copy ability, and try not to die. By day 4, the training has somehow shifted to serving a very cold-looking lizard monster. His eye confirms the diagnosis. The poor thing has the chilled status ailment. So Yuki wraps it in a blanket, realizing he has to predict and analyze to keep up. He then offers it a warm drink, turning on the 5-star butler charm for his reptilian guest. This earns him a big hug, proving that good communication can solve interspecies temperature disputes. As he pours tea for his new buddy, he is finally starting to understand the point of all this. Realizing Vince's bizarre training is all about teaching him precision and awareness. Day 6 brings a new challenge, an adorable bat monster whose only status is hungry. Yuki confidently presents a plate of food, thinking he has mastered the art of prediction, only for the cute little bat to immediately bite his neck for a much fresher meal. He is left passed out on the floor as a pop-up explains its bloodsuck skill, a very direct form of customer feedback. Finally, on day 7, he is serving the final boss himself, Vint, with a much steadier hand. He presents the tea with a proud smile, hoping for a passing grade after a week of chaos. Vince's review is harsh. The tea is bad, but his manners are passable, which is basically a standing ovation from this guy. After a week of battles and tea parties, Yuki feels like he has somehow survived the world's deadliest hospitality course. Yuki thinks he has finally, just barely, passed the world's most lethal hospitality course, but Vince shuts that down immediately, announcing the real final exam starts right now. And for this pop quiz, he is bringing back his signature Blood Blossom Beautiful Blade. Our boy recognizes the attack that nearly killed him before, getting ready for round 2. Vint notes that after all that training, Yuki can now activate his special eye instantly, challenging him to make the copied skill his own instead of just a cheap imitation. This stakes are simple as Vint lays them out with his usual charm: succeed or die. Yuki just fires up his own eye, already well aware that failure means a dirt nap. His ruinous evil eye goes into overdrive, scanning every last detail of Vince's technique, this time revealing the skill's secret. It can only be stopped by a preemptive strike. Thanks to his butler training, Yuki can now see the attack's path with perfect clarity, and he finally understands how to move his body to counter it properly. So he activates his own copied version of the skill, ready to fight fire with fire. Their two ultimate moves collide in a massive explosion of crimson energy and bad intentions. But even with the copy, his block is just barely holding on Vince's blade at his throat. A swift kick sends our boy flying, proving that a knockoff is still a knockoff. Vint calls the attempt disappointing, while Yuki realizes he was still one step behind. As he bleeds out, his only thought is that he still has not saved Elvina yet. But he roars back to life, screaming that Vint does not get to decide his limits. Plunging his hand into his own blood, ready to try something absolutely insane. Using his own blood, Yuki unleashes his personal remix of the Blood Blossom Beautiful Blade. This system explains his new skill turns his blood into a storm of slashes that cannot be normally blocked. Vint is absolutely floored, realizing the kid did not just copy his ultimate move, he reshaped it. Our boy declares he is not giving up after one failure, a bold statement for someone actively bleeding out. His new strategy is to just overwhelm Vint with a sheer volume of attacks, a classic spam-to-win approach. And for a second, it actually works. He lands a solid blow, looking incredibly proud of himself. Vint holds his ground but admits the attempt was impressive, which is basically a Nobel Prize from this guy. Barely standing, Yuki asks, "How do you like me now?" clearly desperate for a gold star. His trainer immediately points out the fatal flaw: Yuki cannot fire that move more than once. In fact, he is completely tapped out, admitting that one big attack was his absolute limit. As Yuki collapses from exhaustion, Vint catches him while his phone clatters to the floor. Vint just carries him off, muttering that he still has a lot to learn, leaving the phone behind. On the forgotten phone, a text from someone named Saki pops up saying she found the dungeon he wanted. Elsewhere, someone is clearly worried about Yuki's well-being, surrounded by a mountain of paperwork. This silver-haired woman thinks a B-rank dungeon is way too dangerous, even for a joint operation. This dungeon in question is indeed a B-rank with an unknown boss, which is never a good sign. Suddenly, they are in a throne room where a new boss lady announces they are tackling that dungeon tomorrow. She gives Yuki a smirk, noting he must have gone a fair bit stronger to be included. Vint adds his 2 cents. Yuki's manners are still garbage, but his sword skills are now somewhat decent. But the boss lady raises a very good point. How is a lowly E-rank like Yuki even allowed inside? Yuki clarifies that he is not a hero on this mission, just the designated pack mule. Elsewhere, the boss lady questions a man in a suit about who he intends to contract with. He leans in with a sinister look, revealing his targets are simply them. This bombshell clearly sends a shockwave through Vint and the others who know exactly what that means. Back at the Adventurers Guild, Yuki gets a cheerful greeting from Saki, the one who found the dungeon. She immediately clocks his new sword, asking if he has started training, much to his surprise. He apologizes for dragging her into this mess, but she just brushes it off completely. In fact, she is actually relieved to have a familiar face along for a dangerous job. Their reunion is promptly interrupted by some loudmouth adventurer shouting for Saki. This guy and his crew are itching to start the raid and want to know who the new kid is. Saki explains that Yuki is not actually part of their official party, which makes things awkward. He is just a volunteer who took the quest from the guild, not someone she personally recruited. She whispers to Yuki that these guys are just glory hounds trying to leech off her S-rank status. This lead goon gets right in Yuki's face, assuming he must be a rank to be hanging with Saki. When asked directly, Yuki has to awkwardly confess he is an E-rank, a professional liability. This guy just scoffs, calling him a low-level scrub who is obviously beneath them. His whole crew starts posturing, demanding Saki ditch the dead weight and take them instead. But Saki shuts them down, reminding them this scrub has solo cleared 2 dungeons already. Yuki flashes back to those chaotic near-death experiences, admitting it is only technically true. This just confuses the other adventurers, since no one clears dungeons at E-rank unless they are gunning for the top. Turns out this glory hound's entire plan was to ride Saki's coattails to an easy E-rank promotion. But with a supposed solo clearer in the mix, he is worried he will not get all the credit. Saki, clearly fed up, has to remind him this is an investigation, not a dungeon clear for points. Getting everyone back on track, she officially kicks off the mission briefing for the Cave of Sealed Desire. So the whole crew heads into the B-rank dungeon, which is just as gloomy as it sounds. We get a quick Dungeon 101 lesson. The rank is almost always based on the final boss's power. Our boy then asks the million-dollar question, how do you even know how strong the boss is beforehand? Apparently you can tell by how simple or complicated the dungeon's layout is. These rules are pretty straightforward. A tougher boss means more floors and a more complex map. Saki clarifies this place is a small type dungeon with 22 floors, landing it squarely in B-rank territory. But here is the catch, no matter how many times it has been searched, nobody can actually find the boss. She is clearly annoyed, explaining the quest was so impossible it got kicked all the way up to her. And right on cue, some giant worm monster ambushes the party out of nowhere. This glory hound, whose name is Gato, immediately starts fighting his own teammates for the kill. He then proceeds to one-shot the worm, slicing it clean in half with his blade. Gato holds up the dead worm like a trophy, completely desperate for Saki's approval. Saki just facepalms while Yuki realizes being an S-rank must be absolutely exhausting. Having gotten 0 praise, Gato turns his attention to the easiest target, our boy Yuki. He tells Yuki to just stand there and do nothing since his solo clears are irrelevant with Saki around. But his smug lecture is cut short by a look of pure, unadulterated terror on his face. Because right behind him, a massive rock golem is literally bursting out of the wall. And it is not just one, it is a whole welcoming committee of angry stone monsters. Before Gato can even process this, Saki and Yuki are already leaping into the fray. Saki immediately becomes a blur of motion, her blade carving through the golems with blue energy, unleashing her luminous slash and wiping out the entire mob in a single, blinding attack. Gato just stands there completely stunned, admitting he could not even see what happened. Saki then turns to Yuki, saying she was just about to tell him to stay back and not die, but our boy just apologizes, explaining he timed his own swing so he would not get in her way. She is completely floored, realizing he actually managed to sync his attack with hers perfectly. Yuki just plays it cool, saying the monster looked tough so he figured he'd lend a hand. She is seriously impressed, admitting his sword training is way more effective than she expected, and it dawns on her that his assist is what made her own attack feel so clean. This earns Yuki a sparkling smile and a nice work, a major upgrade from being the pack mule. He just mutters that dungeons are insane, which yeah, monsters from walls will do that. Saki then puts Gato's crew back in their place, telling them to focus on investigating, not fighting. Seething with wounded pride, Gato vows to find the boss room himself to prove his worth. This party presses on, dealing with more monsters along the way but finding absolutely nothing. 10 long hours later, Saki and Yuki are still poring over the map, completely stumped. Yuki is totally wiped out on the floor because there is still not a single trace of a boss room. They have hit a total dead end, with Saki confirming they have checked every nook and cranny for a hidden path. Yuki touches the wall, asking the totally innocent question of what is on the other side. Gato immediately mocks him for being a clueless E-rank because of course he does. He then launches into a condescending lecture on how dungeons are just mana constructs. To really sell his point, Gato kicks the wall right next to Yuki's head. Subtlety is not his strong suit. This glory hound warns him that trying to break through will just get him hurt on a mana barrier. But Yuki's special eye flares to life, telling him that is not quite the full story. Gato is just left sputtering, completely lost by the sudden shift in tone. With his eye in overdrive, Yuki sees the truth of the entire cave system, revealing the walls are made of the exact same material as those rock golems. Saki instantly understands the implication, telling everyone to get back as she powers up her luminous slash. Her attack blows a massive hole right through the impenetrable wall in a huge explosion. Stunned by what she sees, she screams for the entire party to get inside the new opening now. Someone takes the first step into the unknown space beyond the wall. As they enter, Yuki's face hardens, sensing something is deeply wrong. A colossal shadow looms over them, revealing a golem that makes the others look like pebbles. Gato's tough guy facade completely shatters, his face a mask of pure terror. Saki puts it all together with dawning horror. They were never in a dungeon to begin with. This whole time, they have been walking around inside a giant golem designed to look like one. This glory hound can only stammer, asking why anyone would do this. Saki gives him the grim answer. It was all a trap to fake the dungeon's rank. Yuki puts it together. This is the real first floor and the rank was a complete lie. Before them stretches a massive desert landscape, a super large-scale dungeon for sure. An entire army of rock golems stares them down, confirming this is at least a rank territory. Saki grimly corrects him, saying it is actually on the verge of becoming an S-rank nightmare. On her phone, she relays the bad news. The Cave of Sealed Desire was a total misdirect. A system-like message confirms their worst fears, labeling this a super large-scale ranked dungeon. This entire first floor was just a giant golem in disguise, a perfect welcome mat of death. He and Saki share a look, both understanding just how badly they have been played. Far in the distance, a floating castle hangs in the sky, the true heart of this place. Gato asks if the giant golem is dead, but Saki figures it just powered down after failing its mission. She realizes its entire purpose was to trap and eliminate an S-ranker specifically like her. With a dark look, she admits their enemies are capable of some seriously advanced planning. Gato's dumb question about monsters gets a lecture. Dungeons are a literal warfront, not resource farms. A quick flashback shows these monsters have intelligence, strategy, and sometimes even feelings. Luckily, they found the trap before it officially ranked up, giving them a small window to act. Their target is now the boss of this golem-infested floor before it can hide itself away. This investigation phase is officially over, as Saki announces it is time for a full-on clear. She dismisses Gato's crew, telling them to report back to the guild since the gate is right there. But Yuki is not having it, declaring he is staying to fight alongside her, no turning back now. Saki turns, completely surprised by his resolve, asking if he is really coming with her. Yuki's eyes reflect Saki, his resolve to stay and fight now set in stone. She asks if he is sure, explaining she needs a reliable messenger if she ends up dying here. But she insists he is the only one she can trust with that grim responsibility. Her words trigger a painful memory and he instinctively grabs at his collar. Saki pulls him close, making a new promise. They are both going home together. He agrees without hesitation, his own determination hardening his expression. A quick flashback reveals his vow to never let anyone die again after a past tragedy. With the emotional stuff handled, she just scoops him up bridal style to get moving. Efficiency is key. Then she blasts off across the desert, using some kind of light-speed travel skill. Gato is left completely in the dust, whining that he cannot see anything anymore. But his wounded pride kicks in and he vows he is not just going to retreat. A small, house-shaped golem sits nearby, a silent testament to the weirdness of this dungeon. Saki, still carrying Yuki, carves a direct path through the swarming golem army. Her blade unleashes a torrent of light, shattering everything in their way in a huge blast. They finally land in a massive cavern filled with crystals. The mana here is off the charts. A voice rings out, surprised that any humans actually made it this deep on their own. Hanging upside down from the ceiling is a new foe made of red gems, the boss, obviously. Yuki immediately identifies her, staring up at the being with glowing pink eyes. She introduces herself as Carrot, the jewel golem, whose goal is to be the most effortless demon king. Her whole plan involved secretly hoarding mana, and apparently she has a captive audience watching. Carrot starts monologuing about polishing her beauty, which is a really weird flex for a dungeon boss. She then whips out a crystal weapon while spouting absolute nonsense beauty jargon, a true influencer of the damned. With her sales pitch over, she lunges at Yuki, ready to give him a fatal makeover. But Yuki's eye flares, activating a skill called Magic Song to counter her movements. This jewel golem zips around the cavern, confused why her usual blitz attack is not finishing him off. Our boy admits she is fast and a clean hit would be lethal, but he is managing to track her. He then thinks she is actually slow compared to someone named Vint, blocking her strike without fear. She just laughs, boasting that her crystal body is way tougher than any golem they have faced so far. Yuki calmly agrees with her, his hand steady on his blade, knowing his role here is different. His only job is to parry and create an opening for the real heavy hitter. Right on cue, Saki dives in from above, her sword glowing with that familiar blue light. This coordinated strike lands, and Carrot is genuinely shocked that someone actually managed to scratch her. Saki confirms the boss is tough, but she has already proven that unbreakable is not in her vocabulary. This kid can only marvel at her S-rank power, just as devastating as it was against the giant golem. Carrot clutches her wound, whining that it hurts, but her creepy smile says she is enjoying this. This lack of panic tips Saki off. The boss is not rattled at all and is definitely planning something nasty. She warns Yuki to stay sharp, and he confirms he knows what their next move is. Their new strategy is simple: wear her down with a constant barrage of attacks. But the gem golem just smirks, revealing she has been watching their every move this whole time. Then she activates a skill to create more golems, announcing she knows exactly where their weak spot is. Yuki realizes Saki just burned a massive amount of mana for absolutely nothing. And her face says it all: this was a complete and total miscalculation. Because back at the entrance, Gato's crew is screaming as the golems have respawned, blocking their escape route. Carrot gloats, holding the B-team hostage in a crystal prison, basically daring Saki to make a move. Saki finally understands the boss was just collecting spare parts this whole time to pull this stunt. Now she is trapped in a classic dilemma: save the idiots and get ambushed, or fight the boss and let them die. But Yuki steps up, telling Saki to go save them without a second thought. His logic is simple: they absolutely cannot leave this psycho boss unattended for a second. With his sword drawn, he declares he is going to hold her off all by himself. Saki gives him a look of pure trust, telling him she is counting on him completely. As she zips away, she promises a party when they get back, which is never a good sign. Carrot just scoffs, calling him a pathetic sacrifice that Saki threw away to save her own skin. Yuki just grips his sword, calmly correcting her that this is not a sacrifice, it is trust. He thinks back on everyone who has ever believed in him, like Saki, Liber, and Vint. A golden aura explodes around him as he vows to live up to that faith right here, right now. Carrot is genuinely shocked by this new power, questioning why a human is using monster mana. Our boy drops the bomb. From here on out, he is fighting as a monster tamer. He warns her that his swordsmanship was taught by monsters way stronger than she is, and he proves it by landing a clean cut, leaving Carrot stunned that he could even touch her. Yuki explains his evil "I read her" moves, letting him use her own power against her with zero waste. Carrot, completely done with this, decides to change up her weapon's form. Her new crystal whip is designed to coil and stab, and she dares him to even try deflecting it. But Yuki just meets her strike head-on, basically asking if she thinks that will even reach him. Laughing, she calls him smug and full of openings as she goes in for the kill. Except our boy reveals he let her catch him, grabbing her arm mid-strike. Carrot's face is pure, unadulterated shock. This was not part of the plan. With her trapped, Yuki uses her own crystal hardness against her, shattering pieces of her body. This jewel golem finally gets it. He has been playing her from the start, and Yuki just confirms it with a cold stare, revealing this is what a monster tamer can do. Absolutely livid, she screams that she will not forgive this pathetic human for scratching her precious shell. Our boy just calmly replies that this is far from over, of course, because now he's going to show her what a real skill looks like. In response, Carrot starts compressing and polishing her gems, getting ready for a power-up. This results in a full-on transformation into a massive armored golem, the ruler of this dungeon. Showing off her past victims trapped in crystal, she declares Yuki is not even worthy of her collection. Her new plan is to just grind him down into a single grain of sand in her desert. So Yuki just sprints right up her massive arm, dodging her attacks with incredible agility. And she mocks him, saying his tiny body cannot possibly handle her new size. But the kid just smirks back, asking if getting huge is her only move, how uncreative. She roars back that bigger jewels are more valuable, obviously, as she brings down a colossal fist. Yuki completely rejects her bigger is better logic, saying that is not what matters at all. With a flash in his eye, he declares the only thing that counts is how beautifully you cut something. He then unleashes a skill called Blood Blossom Beautiful Blade, which sounds both elegant and messy. A splash of blood hits his face, but his expression is just pure, cold focus. Carrot is completely floored, questioning how a human is even capable of using a monster's skill. Our boy just calmly explains that this is simply his style, end of story. Suddenly, Carrot's entire body is pierced by a storm of crimson blades from every direction. Her eye reflects the incoming attack as she tries to dodge, but it is way too late for that. This jewel golem gets absolutely shredded in a flurry of slashes, a truly brutal takedown. Yuki stands there panting, just relieved he could pull off the move in a real fight. But he admits the cost was steep, looking at his own blood dripping from his hand. As he walks away, Carrot's shattered form lies on the ground, completely in disbelief. She had to sacrifice most of her body just to survive that one terrifying attack. But she is back on her feet, pointing out that Yuki paid just as big a price for it. This kid easily blocks her follow-up, reminding her he has already read all her moves. She smirks, seeing he is at his absolute limit and barely holding himself together. Carrot mocks him, asking what a broken-down human like him can possibly do now. And she is not wrong. A nasty wound is bleeding right through his shirt, showing the damage. Yuki agrees he cannot do much alone before revealing a summoning circle on his hand. His trump card is a tiny, adorable bat monster, which is just the most threatening thing ever. This tiny bat then spits out a whole bunch of blood. Turns out his trump card is a flying blood bank. In a flashback, his mentors Vint and Liber listen to his insane plan with serious concern. He remembers being taught the bat's bloodsuck skill, which lets it store blood for later use. By preloading the little guy, he gets 2 shots with his ultimate move instead of just 1. But Vint points out the obvious flaw: he is already near death, and a miss means it is all over. Yuki's solution is simple. He will fire the first shot with his own blood to guarantee the second one hits. His master is horrified, realizing that move alone is guaranteed to leave him half dead and wide open. Back in the present, his eye glints with cunning, knowing he can use that weakness to bait her. He recalls Liber's lesson that embracing your weakness is how you become truly strong. After all the life that little bat sucked out of him during training, it is finally time for it to earn its keep. With Carrot right where he wants her, Yuki reveals this entire fight was just a setup for this one moment. He channels power through his blade, deciding to give her his name before he finishes this. He is Yuki, the monster tamer, an adventurer who uses both friends and foes to win. And with that declaration, he unleashes the bat's stored power through his sword in a final, devastating attack. Carrot's face splits apart as she can only call him a freak for pulling this off. Her entire crystal body then shatters into a million sparkling pieces, completely obliterated. With the bat on his shoulder, Yuki calmly states he is still human, even after contracting with a demon king. Suddenly, the dungeon's raw mana surges around him in a massive pillar, making his eyes burn. He holds up his hand, the summoning circle glowing, deciding this much power should be enough. And with intense focus, he begins absorbing all of that chaotic energy for whatever comes next. Yuki collapses, putting all his faith in Liber to handle whatever he just unleashed. Just in time, Saki swoops in to catch him, apologizing for her late arrival. She is completely stunned he took down the boss solo, and he just gives a sheepish "my bad." Our boy admits he is too dizzy from blood loss to even stand, needing her to prop him up. Suddenly, the scene cuts to a full-blown press conference with cameras flashing everywhere. An official-looking guy takes the stage to address the media frenzy about the dungeon clear. He announces that a very special situation occurred during the latest rank raid. To explain it all, they are bringing out the person directly involved. Talk about a dramatic reveal. This reporters absolutely lose their minds, knowing this story is pure front-page gold. Stepping onto the stage is the person who contributed most, and it is definitely not Yuki. Two journalists are buzzing about the fake dungeon news and how incredible the clear was. And the hero of the hour is none other than S-rank adventurer Lady Saki, looking regal as ever. This press immediately starts shouting questions, calling her the White Flash and asking about a dungeon collapse. Another reporter grills her about rumors of an intelligent monster appearing in an ranked dungeon. Saki just calmly tells everyone to settle down so she can give them the official summary. In her head, though, she is totally cursing Yuki for dumping this PR nightmare on her lap. A quick flashback shows Yuki shoving the speech into her hands, saying he has to go do something important. She tried to make him get treatment first, but the kid just vanished, leaving her to face the music alone. Now she is left wondering what could possibly be more urgent than this whole mess. Meanwhile, Yuki sprints to a fancy building where a stern-looking man asks if the resurrection was a success. So that important thing Yuki had to do involves his maid, Liber, channeling some seriously ominous purple magic. His mentor, Vint, warns him not to look, saying the raw mana alone is enough to burn out his eyes. Yuki can barely handle it. The sheer pressure of the ritual is completely overwhelming him. With a body chained in the air, Liber announces that Elvena's break time is officially over. This head maid then informs the soul that she is not permitted to just loiter in the underworld anymore. She activates her skill, Underworld Approval, which sounds less like a spell and more like a demonic rubber stamp. And just like that, the girl in the flowers, Elvena, opens her eyes. The resurrection was a success. Yuki immediately rushes to her side, shouting her name in total relief. She just looks up at him, confused, asking why her master is even here. Elvena then asks if he died, and Yuki just laughs, correcting her that she is the one who came back to life. Our boy admits he was honestly worried his sacrifice was for nothing, a very valid concern. He gently takes her hand, still processing that she is actually back and in one piece. With a deep sigh of relief, Yuki tells her he is just so glad she is okay. She hits him with the deadpan of the century, asking if telling a zombie she is okay is some kind of joke. But Vint cuts the touching reunion short, ordering them both to get changed for the real work ahead. Yuki asks if he has to be a butler again, and Elvena is just floored to hear her master has a part-time job. As Liber happily presents him with a suit, he just sighs and agrees to get ready. This kid cleans up surprisingly well, though he is suddenly sparkling in a ridiculously fancy getup. He is a little unsure about the new look, but Vint is already heading for the door. Telling Yuki that for today, his only job is to play the king. He walks into a room full of monsters, all of them cheering because they have been brought back to life. Yuki is just completely lost, asking what in the world is happening right now. This demon king Liber greets him, casually mentioning he used all that dungeon mana Yuki collected. His maid then chimes in, exhausted but proud she resurrected a bonus batch of people with the power surge. Turns out Liber gathered this whole monster menagerie because they were dying to meet the human who saved them. And now they are all over our boy, demanding he tell them his war stories until morning. Personal space is not a concept here. Elvena immediately tries to drag him away, declaring she has priority over this bizarre fan club. As Yuki tries to brush it all off, he begs Liber for help, who is just sipping wine and enjoying the chaos. Liber reminds him that because of the choice he made, all these lives were saved. He then raises a glass, telling Yuki to get used to this kind of gratitude as a monster tamer. But Yuki just denies it, insisting he did not go through all that for their sake. His real motivation was Elvena, who just happened to remind him of another girl from his past. He turns to face the crowd of monsters, ready to set the record straight. A quick flashback reveals a happy family, the memory that has been driving this whole revenge quest. Still, with a soft smile, Yuki admits he is glad he was able to save them all anyway. Suddenly, a new girl gets in his face, calling him out as Vint's top disciple and demanding to know what he is up to. Meanwhile, Vint complains to Liber that Yuki still needs more training, which Liber interprets as fatherly affection. Liber keeps teasing him, pointing out that Vint even went out of his way to get the kid a new suit. Vint just shoots back that Liber is just as invested, if not more so. And in his head, he admits they thought they were using Yuki, but it turns out the kid is the one playing them all. Vint admits Yuki completely blew past their expectations, which is putting it mildly. Liber just smirks over his wine, smugly agreeing that is just how their boy rolls. And with a dramatic transition, the focus shifts away from the monster after party. Back at the press conference, Saki asks a reporter to repeat a question, playing dumb with maximum sass, but some new guy in a hoodie and shades just tells her to cut the act and bring out the hero. He is not talking about her, though. He wants the real person who cleared the dungeon. This dude then accuses her of hiding some crazy monster, clearly enjoying the chaos he is causing. And then he drops the bomb that he is here to take that monster for himself. Meanwhile, in a dark alley, this same hooded guy is cornering some poor informant. This beaten-up source spills that the person he is looking for was last seen with Saki. Our new villain is completely unimpressed, calling him another useless low-ranker, the ego on this one. Panicked, the informant suddenly remembers the name he heard, Yuki. This hooded guy checks his files and finds our boy's profile, confirming the low-rank adventurer is his target. His source begs to be let go, swearing he has got nothing to do with any of it. But the villain's hand erupts in flames, deciding loose ends are a fire hazard. He tells the guy to blame his own big mouth for what is about to happen. And just like that, the informant is completely incinerated, a problem neatly solved. Elsewhere, a blissfully unaware Yuki is just walking through a park with a bouquet of flowers. He's just enjoying the novelty of being surrounded by normal humans for a change. For today, he has decided to forget all about his demonic crew and just have a day off. Yuki stands with a bouquet, explaining he is here to visit some important people. His destination is the Great Collapse Memorial, a park dedicated to victims of a past dungeon disaster. This whole place is a somber monument for everyone who lost their lives in that incident. In his memory, a happy group from an orphanage waves, the family he has so much to report to. He wants to tell them he has finally become an adventurer and is even learning to use a sword. But his quiet moment of reflection is suddenly cut short. He senses someone nearby, initially wondering if Saki somehow followed him here. Nope, it is the shady hooded guy from before who casually says he has been waiting for him. This dude introduces himself as Zapper and a rank adventurer, which already sounds like a lie. Yuki plays it cool, noting they have never met, and Zapper confirms this is their first official meeting. Then he drops the bombshell that he is here to scout Yuki, who is just floored since he is only E rank. Zapper immediately brings up the fake dungeon clear, making it painfully obvious he knows the truth. With a menacing glint in his eye, he tells Yuki to drop the act because he knows he was involved. Our boy is stunned and Zapper lays it all out. He lets Saki take the credit to hide his monster powers. A quick flashback confirms it, showing Yuki begging Saki to take the glory for his rank-up exam. Back in the present, Yuki tries to lie his way out, claiming he just helped evacuate people. Zapper just shuts that down with a hard no, stating plainly that Yuki is the one who killed the boss. He even knows Saki was busy fighting golems while Yuki handled the main threat. This guy's intel is way too good. Yuki is completely rattled as Zapper points out the obvious. He has skills that can take down an rank boss. Trying one last pathetic denial, Yuki claims he was just hiding, but Zapper is not interested in his excuses. Zapper starts his recruitment pitch with a chess metaphor, saying dungeon conquering requires more than disposable pawns. To make real money, he explains, you need good weapons, smashing the board for a little extra flair. And with a smug grin, he clarifies he is looking for the absolute asterisk best weapons, not just any old tool. His sales pitch lands squarely on Yuki, telling him that is exactly where he fits into the plan. Zapper points out that even with crazy skills, there is a hard limit to what anyone can achieve solo. Joining a party, however, changes the game entirely, even if the individual payout seems smaller. This potential earnings, he promises with a clenched fist, will absolutely skyrocket with the right team. Then he gets way too close, inviting Yuki to make a killing together, a totally normal and not at all creepy offer. Yuki politely acknowledges the offer, thanking Zapper for thinking so highly of him. But with a gentle smile, he turns him down flat, saying his goal is not just about making money. Zapper just shrugs off the rejection, casually admitting his sales pitch was not exactly smooth. His friendly act immediately evaporates as he reveals he was planning to test Yuki anyway. A magic circle flares behind him as he decides violence is the better recruitment tool. HR is gonna love this. Our boy is completely stunned by the sudden shift from job offer to attempted murder. Without hesitation, Zapper unleashes a massive fire attack right at Yuki's face. This blast completely incinerates the bouquet of flowers Yuki dropped, which is just uncalled for. Yuki barely dodges, shocked that this psycho is using powerful magic in a public park. Zapper seems impressed by the dodge, smirking that now he wants to recruit him even more. Furious, Yuki yells at him to stop, reminding him this is a memorial where people are supposed to be at peace. Zapper just adjusts his shades, smugly pointing out that using magic here is illegal, as if he is not the one doing it. Zapper declares that rejecting his offer is the real crime here, slamming Yuki with a stone-binding spell. Our boy is completely paralyzed, unable to move or even activate his skills in the rock chains. With a smug look, the villain points out Yuki's fatal flaw: he is a monster slayer, not a people fighter. Pinned to the ground, Yuki desperately tries to think of a countermove as Zapper closes in for the finish. He manages to activate Icebind, freezing Zapper's hand solid just in the nick of time. Zapper just laughs it off, saying Yuki is a pure dungeon conqueror and his total opposite. Then he shatters the ice and smashes Yuki's face into the dirt, yelling that is exactly why he needs him. Leaning in close, he threatens to keep this up until Yuki finally agrees to join his little team. HR would have a field day. This psycho boasts that no guild or S-ranker can touch him because he is the skill killer, a specialist in taking down adventurers. With his hand crushing Yuki's face, the question hangs in the air demanding an answer. But in a flash, Yuki vanishes, leaving Zapper to promise he will get his answer before our boy dies. Meanwhile, back in his throne room, Liber picks up a chess piece, annoyed that someone tried to steal his property. This demon king looks absolutely furious, calling the attempt on his piece completely impudent. Yuki finds himself safely inside a barrier cast by his maid, who says they need to plan a counterattack. Vint listens as Yuki admits he was caught off guard without a sword, since carrying one as an E-ranker is a good way to get arrested. Even with a blade now, he knows he'd have lost. Zapper's magic is just on another level. Liber just smirks, reminding Yuki of the most obvious solution. He is a monster tamer, is not he? This demon king tells him to use his power and summons a monster who is an expert in magic. A new face appears, an elf researcher named Machina Maitwa, who seems a bit annoyed at being interrupted. Liber proudly declares that no one in the world understands magic better than her, presenting Yuki with his new tutor. Liber's got this evil grin, telling Yuki it is time to learn the abyss, while our boy looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. His new tutor, Machina, immediately calls him out as Vint's top disciple, adding that she absolutely despises the old man. She points out she has never seen him at any of Vint's little monster get-togethers, which is probably for the best. This elf then goes on a whole rant about that antique bat, and Yuki's just stuck on the part where she is 1,000 years old. She casually clarifies it is 1,000, give or take, leaving Yuki completely speechless at her age. Then she specifies she is only 1499, and Yuki's deadpan face is just screaming that is not how rounding works. Her real motive comes out: she wants to make Yuki stronger than Vint ever could, purely out of spite. Getting way too close, she daydreams about how much that old fossil will hate seeing his student thrive under her. Her fantasy spirals into a whole forbidden love plot to make Vint jealous, while Yuki just wants to get on with the lesson. Still, she agrees to help because it sounds fun, and apparently magic research needs a little stimulation. They walk into a library the size of a city, and Yuki immediately asks if he has to read all of it, poor guy. Machina just smirks, telling him there is way more since her entire floor is basically one giant bookshelf. Judging by his reaction, she correctly guesses he has no idea what magic is, and his definition is just mana for weird stuff. So begins the pop quiz, with her first question being the difference between a skill and magic. Yuki is completely stumped, realizing he has never actually considered the distinction before. With a little nose boop, she explains that skills are personal techniques, while magic is universal. Our boy is confused by the term universal, so she starts breaking down the three main types of skills. First up are skills you get from your job class, like the powerful evil eye he possesses. Next are skills that are unique to a specific race, like a bat's ability to use bloodsuck. And finally, there are skills you get when you master a technique so perfectly it becomes something more. Machina grandly explains that skills are just cheat codes that only work because of a user's personal talent. Using a cute egg diagram, she shows that two skills can look the same but be totally different inside. She then asks Yuki if he has ever felt that difference himself, and his silence is a big fat yes. His mind flashes to Vint's Blood Blossom technique, a perfect example of a personalized, uncopyable skill. Yuki admits he learned that lesson the hard way, asking if magic is the complete opposite. And she confirms it: magic is basically cosmic plagiarism, where the same input gets the same result every time. With a single finger raised, she calls it a universal and absolute rule of their world. A dramatic pose and a glowy finger later, she officially defines that as magic. Our boy is totally amazed by the concept, but a new question immediately pops into his head. So for Pop Quiz Round 2, she asks why more people cannot use it if it is so universal. Yuki guesses it is because the mana cost is insane or the conditions are just super strict. Nope, she just sighs that the real reason is much simpler. It is just ridiculously difficult. He thinks it is about mana control, but she clarifies the real problem is the chanting. Apparently, even a short spell requires you to recite an entire novel, which is just unreasonable. A quick flashback shows Zapper trapping him with a stone spell, no lengthy monologue required. Yuki realizes he has only ever heard mages shout a single word, not read a phone book out loud. This leads to question 3, how are mages getting away with these verbal shortcuts? Our boy actually puts his brain to work, trying to connect the dots on this one. He figures they must be compensating for the long chants somehow, using some kind of trick. Machina beams, finally getting a right answer, explaining that items like staves can do the heavy lifting for you. She reveals other shortcuts like carving magic circles or just thinking the whole chant. This means magic is super flexible, letting you tweak spells however you want. Essentially, the more you study, the more you learn how to break the rules. For instance, she shows a mage summoning a fire hammer with a simple 2-word call. Yuki learns this is no chant casting, where you do all the hard work in your head. It is a basic technique, but its power depends entirely on how well you get the original spell. Your mental shortcut could be text, an image, or even a sound. It is all up to the caster. Our boy finally gets why the same spell can have wildly different results from person to person. Once you grasp the core concept, she explains you can forge it into your own unique style. Her next fire hammer is way more intense, described as shaping invasion itself. He is completely captivated, a tiny flame even sparking unconsciously in his own hand. Another pro tip is to just say part of the chant and fill in the rest with raw power. Yuki is all fired up, thinking he just needs to memorize the book to get started. So pure, so wrong. She hands him the grimoire but warns him that rote memorization is for total amateurs. A chant is a recipe, and if you do not know the ingredients, you cannot cook up anything new. He compares it to learning a new language, then immediately admits he sucks at those too. Oof. Since humans are on a time crunch, she tells him to be grateful for her accelerated course. With a flourish, she casts online library, engulfing the room in a pillar of light. Yuki can only sweat bullets as he is pulled into whatever this magical training montage is. And suddenly he is standing in a blazing inferno, completely baffled by his new classroom. Machina explains her spell turns a textbook into a live-action simulation, which is way cooler than flashcards. She calls it fire magic for dummies, and to pass, Yuki just has to clear this virtual dungeon easy, right? At least he gets a sword for this pop quiz, which he seems pretty happy about. Our boy strikes a pose, confidently declaring that dungeon clearing is his bread and butter. That confidence lasts about 2 seconds before he sees what he is actually up against. His first assignment is to read all the basic elements, each represented by a floating monster-spawning book. And by read, she means fight his way through a whole swarm of them, starting with 2 giant fire snakes. Machina just smirks, practically daring him to complain that this is completely impossible. Before he can even answer, one of the snakes lunges forward to start the exam. Yuki just grins back, telling her no. He is absolutely ready for this ridiculous challenge. He immediately unleashes a massive ice wave, showing he is not just some E-ranker anymore. His tutor looks genuinely surprised, maybe even a little impressed by his raw power. Glowing with blue energy, Yuki vows to end this fight in a flash, famous last words. 3 days later, back on Machina's floor, a massive magical vortex is raging. Inside the simulation, a giant eagle monster comes screeching down for the next lesson. Yuki is trying to chant a wind spell, actually attempting to use proper magic instead of just his skills. His spell works, trapping the bird in a swirl of green energy, but it is super unstable. This backlash sends him flying as he struggles to finish the incantation. This is not going smoothly. He barely manages to cast air catch, creating a cushion just in time to save his neck. After that near-death experience, Machina floats down to inform him he has absolutely zero talent for this. Great for morale. Lying on the ground, Yuki finally gets why most adventurers do not chant. It leaves you wide open. His tutor then drops a bombshell explaining magic is not for fighting, it is for rewriting reality itself. Despite learning all these powerful elements, he is still getting chased by a giant magic hand. She points out that every spell he has learned should be powerful, and yet. Our boy tries to prove her wrong, calling out a stone arrow with a magically formed bow. And it just plops onto the ground, a total and utter failure, bless his heart. He is absolutely floored by how weak it is, with Machina smugly reminding him this is what happens when you cut corners. A chant is basically a set of commands for the world, and skipping lines just makes the instructions fuzzy. And apparently Yuki's imagination is so bad that his no-chant spells have all the punch of a wet noodle. This hits him hard. If he needs long chants for power, he will never be fast enough to beat Zapper. His mind flashes back to Zapper, who can pick the perfect counter and cast it in a split second. Machina just casually brings up another one of his failures, but notes he has not even tried all the elements yet. Maybe wind is his thing, she suggests, right as a new spell sends him flying across the room. Sprawled on the floor again, Yuki agrees that maybe he will find an element he does not suck at, but this real question is, does a monster like Zapper even have a weak element? Meanwhile, Zapper and his crew are chilling at a campsite, looking like they are on a casual adventure. One of his lackeys reports that their target is diving into an S-rank dungeon, which gets Zapper's attention. Apparently this is the perfect hiding spot, a dungeon so nasty that even a party with 2 S-rankers had to bail. We get a quick flashback to that very fight, with a party desperately trying to hold off a massive beast. Zapper just smirks, calling it a clever move to hide in a place no average adventurer would dare to go. Zapper's lackey nervously asks for the plan, but the boss just says they are going in, end of discussion. His subordinate points out the obvious. It is super dangerous and they have other monsters to deal with. Zapper just flashes this terrifying grin, basically saying dangerous is just another word for fun, and right on cue, a giant worm monster with way too many teeth bursts out to attack the crew. This rest of the party is screaming their heads off, which seems like the appropriate response. Zapper, however, is completely unfazed, casually prepping a spell as the monster lunges. He strikes a cool finger gun pose, clearly enjoying the chaos a little too much. With a single word, he unleashes a massive explosion of pure magical energy. It is a whole rainbow of destruction, combining every element into one spectacular attack. He then walks through the mess, complaining that he overkilled them and ruined all the loot. His poor subordinate is just stunned, realizing he just witnessed all-element no-chant casting. This guy can barely process it, staring in awe at what it means to be that powerful. Zapper stands over the carnage, proving that for some people an S-rank dungeon is just a playground. He explains that the danger is exactly why they have to catch their target before he gets away. One of his men tries to give a damage report, but Zapper clearly could not care less. He asks if the injured are just B-rankers, telling them to patch it up. What a great boss. Zapper then clarifies he is not wasting his mana on small fry like them, so they are on their own. His mind is solely on his real target, thinking it is too early for Yuki to die by anyone else's hand. Meanwhile, back in the magic library, Machina looks down at her first disciple with a smug little smile. and our boy is just face down on the floor as she cheerfully confirms he is especially untalented. Our boy is just a puddle of tears on the floor, admitting he cannot even manage a single no-chance spell. His tutor then adds that if he is this bad with the big elements, the minor ones are not gonna save him. Picking himself up, Yuki resigns himself to just making do with what he has got, talent or no talent. His resignation just makes her furious, and she gets right in his face for thinking he can just make do. He is totally taken aback, stammering that every single spell he has tried has been a complete disaster. Floating upside down, she informs him they have not even started the asterisk warm-ups yet, this was just the tutorial. With a dramatic flourish, she declares that magic is about rewriting the world and breaking all the rules. And because of that, she absolutely refuses to let him compromise or even think about giving up. Our boy is just lost, asking how he is supposed to rewrite reality when he cannot even cast a pebble. She just calls it easy, reminding him of that time she messed with the old man's perception. Her whole point is to break the existing rules and then build a brand new one just for himself. Apparently, he has got enough book smarts to teach newbies, so it is time for some applied magic. It finally clicks for him. If the existing spells do not work, he just needs to invent one that does. His tutor gives a smug little wink, confirming he is finally on the right track. She explains the new technique is reverse casting, use instinct to shape mana, then add a chant to support it. Yuki mulls this over, the idea of just willing magic into existence without a script. For combat practice, she says they will need a live fire exercise, and Yuki's face just drops with a single word. Call. Her eyes glow with power, and she summons a swirling orb of water, a spell called Aqua Vision. This vision reveals Zapper, who has just casually strolled into the first floor of that S-rank dungeon. Inside the S-rank dungeon, Zapper is on the hunt, a nasty grin on his face as he looks for his prey. With a shout of his name, Machina casts Wind Watch, yanking Yuki into a whole new battlefield. Our boy is completely stunned, realizing Zapper is already in the very dungeon she was just showing him. His tutor just grins, saying this is perfect since Zapper followed him here. What a great, totally not insane plan. She then drops the new rule, no summons this time, he has to fight with his own magic. This whole setup gives Yuki a nasty case of deja vu, remembering Zapper and his crew from before. Landing in a ruined city, he finally confirms it was teleportation magic that brought him here. Zapper seems to approve of the new arena, noting it is a floor he has never seen before. This man himself strolls forward, smugly telling Yuki he knew he was hiding his true strength all along. He strikes a pose, demanding an answer to whatever question he asked the last time they met, and Yuki, looking surprisingly determined, is ready to give him one. His answer is a face full of cool aqua javelin, launching a surprise attack from below. This kid lands gracefully, sword at the ready, looking like a completely different fighter now. Zapper, completely unfazed, says that defiant look in his eyes is all the answer he needs. In response, he casts Stone Jail, trapping our boy between massive pillars of rock. But Yuki is not having it, unleashing a whirlwind of slashes to break himself free. This stone pillars shatter into a million pieces around him, a pretty impressive display of power. Zapper actually looks impressed, noting it takes a real swordsman to just brute force through a spell like that. Not missing a beat, he casts Mud Bind, and suddenly Yuki's feet are stuck fast in the ground. Yuki's mind is blown. Zapper combined elements on the fly, a move even faster than no-chant casting. Zapper scoffs at Yuki trying to counter a mud spell with more mud, a truly galaxy brain move. But from the sidelines, Machina drops a wind hammer to give our boy an opening. It is not enough though, as Yuki gets absolutely rocked by the follow-up attack. His opponent just smirks, saying that if you still need to chant, your magic is basically worthless. Realizing he cannot win a speed casting duel, Yuki knows he needs a completely new plan, so he decides right then and there to just invent a brand new spell on the spot. Zapper sees that fire in his eyes and knows something's up, starting his own cast. As Yuki charges forward, he remembers Machina's lesson, that magic itself is a miracle. This villain gives a whole lecture on how chants are just instructions for rewriting reality, and once you truly understand the logic, you can skip the instructions entirely. With that thought, Yuki's focus sharpens, ready to put that theory into practice. Zapper, however, is not waiting around for a school project and preps another attack. He unleashes a massive storm of lightning that completely engulfs the battlefield. Blasted back, Yuki admits he is not good at any one spell, not what you want to realize mid-fight. Then Zapper drops his own tragic backstory, claiming miracles have never happened for him. A flashback reveals his family or community, all of whom he lost despite his prayers. He remembers them being wiped out while their home burned, and not one of them ever came back. Channeling all that rage, he summons a massive vortex of earth and stone around himself. This entire thing then collapses into a devastating explosion of pure destruction, and Zapper just strolls out of the dust cloud, looking completely unfazed by the carnage. Zapper's eye widens, maybe a little shocked at the sheer scale of his own destruction. He stands alone in the wasteland he just created, a testament to his overwhelming power. His whole worldview is that miracles are a lie and that kind of magic is simply impossible. On the ground, Yuki admits he cannot even begin to understand a single spell, let alone a miracle. A voice suddenly calls out to her first disciple, snapping Yuki right out of his despair. Of course it is Machina, who just casually mentions she invented some new magic right now, no big deal. She dryly points out he picked a fantastic time for some on-the-job spell creation, so she is offering advice. This lesson is simple, he has got the knowledge, but he is missing the intent to create something new. He needs to let his feelings take the wheel, she explains, just like she does when she is bored. This word feelings resonates with Yuki, who admits that is one thing he has got in spades. His mind flashes back, showing his pure, untainted love for magic, surrounded by family and friends. But the feeling he taps into is not love, it is just pure, unfiltered rage. As he channels that anger, the ground around him literally starts to break and rise into the air. An entire storm of levitating rock and debris now fills the ruined city. He finally gets it in a world this fundamentally unfair. He had every right to be this furious the entire time. Through the chaos, Zapper finds him, almost impressed that the kid has not given up yet. Our boy just stares back, raising a hand with a chilling new sense of purpose. This villain preps for a no-chance spell, but something about Yuki's stance gives him pause. Taking no chances, Zapper unleashes a massive firestorm, declaring his magic is absolute. But inside the firestorm, Yuki is completely unharmed, glowing with a strange new power. Zapper is just floored, unable to comprehend how the kid survived his ultimate attack. His mind races, trying to figure out what kind of spell could possibly negate his own. Then it clicks, Yuki's magic is the polar opposite of his teacher's world-rewriting style. From the sidelines, Machina smugly calls him a hopeless student, which is the highest praise she can give. In fact, she is absolutely beaming, calling his brand new, rage-fueled creation a good spell. Surrounded by a crystalline purple shield, Yuki finally addresses his opponent directly. He declares this is his magic, born from pure rage, and its entire purpose is to deny magic itself. This void shield, as he calls it, is a perfect anti-magic barrier, and Zapper is the first test subject. With a cold look, Yuki informs Zapper that his days of casting spells are officially over. Zapper absolutely loses it, screaming about how his magic is just getting deleted on contact. Forgetting all about recruitment, he decides he is just going to kill Yuki right here and now. He throws a massive lightning javelin, but it just shatters against the unmovable void shield. This spell completely fizzles out, sending Zapper flying as his own magic dissipates into nothing. Not giving up, he tries an aqua whip, which also gets erased the moment it touches the shield. Yuki grits his teeth, admitting that holding this absolute defense is pushing him to his absolute limit. Meanwhile, Zapper realizes it does not matter what element he uses, they all just get wiped out. He finally understands the terrifying truth. This spell is not blocking mana, it is erasing the asterisk will asterisk behind it. Watching from above, Machina notes that Zapper's caught on and her student is using his new power surprisingly well. And we get a quick lesson. While normal magic rewrites the world, Yuki's void magic just tells it do not change. Machina is absolutely cackling, dubbing his new power the void attribute, a spell only her problem child could invent. But Zapper's already found a loophole, realizing the shield breaks if a spell is powerful enough to rewrite reality. His new plan is simple and frankly uninspired, just overwhelm the kid with sheer volume. With a single call, he unleashes a massive barrage of multi-elemental attacks, a real light show of destruction. Yuki knows he cannot just turtle up forever, sitting here blocking is a losing game. So instead, he channels that same void energy into his hand, preparing a countermove. And forges the Void Saber, deciding to combine his absolute defense with some much-needed offense. He then carves a path straight through the elemental storm, his new blade just erasing the spells in his way. Zapper is completely stunned, realizing Yuki is not blocking. He is surgically dismantling the spells to save energy. From the sidelines, Machina boasts that her student's first-class knowledge is letting him outthink Zapper's raw power. With this new strategy, Yuki feels a surge of confidence, knowing he can finally reach his opponent. Of course, Zapper tries to stop him cold, throwing up a massive ice wall and wind wall in his path. Yuki's blade easily erases the wind magic from existence, leaving just the ice to deal with, which he just shatters with a powerful leap, closing the distance between them in an instant. Now Zapper's panicking, his magic is useless, and the kid is somehow parrying his physical attacks. Desperate, he unleashes a swirling fire wave to try and push Yuki back, but our boy just throws up another void shield, nullifying the flames without breaking a sweat. Zapper's starting to sweat, realizing he is going to burn through his mana long before Yuki does. As Zapper scrambles for a spell that can actually work, Yuki finally sees his opening and goes for the kill. Gripping his swords, he prepares to unleash a new skill, ready to end this fight right here. He unleashes his new skill, Usra Blade Style, a storm of dark swords filling the entire area. Zapper is completely blindsided, realizing this is a full-blown skill, not just a simple attack. Through the chaos, Yuki lunges forward and Zapper scrambles to defend, convinced he can block it. But our boy's eyes are locked on the target, pouring everything he has into this one final strike. In a panic, Zapper tries to cast another spell, a desperate call to create some distance. It is way too late for that though, as Yuki is already right in his face, sword poised to strike. Suddenly, Zapper gets absolutely clocked by an air hammer, sending him flying and his glasses with him. And Yuki is stunned, realizing Zapper just punched himself in the face with magic to dodge, a bold strategy. Zapper just laughs it off, saying he will let it slide this time but promises a rematch with a body bag. With a quick wind wing, he makes a tactical retreat, vowing to figure out that void magic. Yuki just watches him go, admitting that for all his bluster, Zapper knows when to cut his losses. Just then, an elf-like ally shows up and starts chewing him out for letting the villain escape. She is practically in tears, worried some old guy is going to laugh at them for this failure, a top-tier motivation. But Yuki reveals a glowing symbol on his hand, explaining he had a backup plan for emergencies. He then asks his companion for permission to remove a restriction, whatever that means. And with that, a massive beam of energy shoots off into the distance, right at his fleeing target. Miles away, Zapper suddenly gets a very bad feeling, noting how awful this sensation is. His eyes go wide as he realizes exactly what is heading his way. This guy is absolutely terrified, recognizing the signature of the incoming attack. A full chant spell which promptly engulfs him in a massive, world-ending explosion. Zapper is still fleeing, convinced there is no way Yuki could possibly cast a full chant spell this fast. But the mana signature is undeniable, forcing him to use a wind burst to speed up his retreat. His elf companion finally understands this is why he summoned someone else to the fight. And that someone is a maid named May, who is chanting some seriously dark poetry about the Mother of Chaos. Her spell gets progressively more metal, talking about boiling and swallowing enemies whole. Surrounded by purple energy, she finishes the cast, looking like the final boss of a gothic RPG. Yuki explains this was his backup plan. He had May learn the chant via thought link just in case. He then smugly points out that with a full chant, anyone can use powerful magic. With the incantation complete, she prepares to unleash absolute hell from miles away. She fires a massive dark spear and then complains that her master is being too rough. Priorities, I guess. Our boy just grins, reminding everyone he is a monster tamer, so he just delegates what he cannot do. And May is happy to oblige, firing a dark arrow since being dead means she never gets tired. Zapper feels that attack coming and absolutely freaks out, realizing he has to deflect it now. In a panic, he throws up a holy shield, his only hope of surviving the incoming blast. This arrow slams right into his barrier with incredible force, and the holy magic immediately starts to crack under the sheer pressure. This guy is just stunned, unable to comprehend how powerful that single attack is. Back on the ground, Yuki raises a hand, basically saying, "I told you so." He then summons his own void arrow, promising Zapper that no miracles are coming to save him. And with that, Zapper is completely swallowed by a vortex of pure anti-magic, his escape plan officially cancelled. Zapper is absolutely screaming as he is swallowed by the vortex of pure anti-magic, a fitting end. Back with the team, the elf ally praises Machina's teaching, impressed by the spell's power and precision. Our boy Yuki just smirks, admitting he had a pretty good teacher for this one. And all that is left on the battlefield is Zapper's signature glasses, a trophy of his defeat. Cut to a dungeon entrance where an enforcement unit is getting ready for a mission. They are discussing their targets, noting the only real threat is a high ranker named Zapper. Turns out their orders are to arrest both Zapper and his supposed partner, a guy named Yuki. In a completely different scene, a blue-haired adventurer stumbles out of a dungeon looking wiped. He is carrying an unconscious Zapper on his back and complaining about what a hassle this is. Just as he is about to turn Zapper into the guild, he is stopped dead in his tracks by the enforcers. This squad immediately surrounds him, weapons drawn, and declares him under arrest. He recognizes the uniforms of the guild's elite squad and has no idea what is going on. Trying to explain himself, his foot is suddenly encased in ice, stopping him cold. A pink-haired mage named Nana reveals herself as the caster, telling him not to move an inch. With blades at his throat, the blue-haired guy panics, asking why he is being arrested too. This squad leader, Algo, identifies the man on his back as Zapper, citing multiple complaints, and then he drops the bombshell. They are arresting Zapper's partner, who they believe is this blue-haired Yuki. This new Yuki is flabbergasted, insisting he is the victim here, not some villain's sidekick. But Zapper, who was just playing possum, suddenly unleashes a fire burst at point-blank range. This blast catches the enforcers completely off guard, giving Zapper the perfect diversion to escape. Zapper's escape begins, but his mind flashes to the asterisk real Yuki's Void Saber, a power that truly terrified him. He just smirks, gloating that he woke up at the perfect time to cause chaos. While the enforcers are reeling, he makes a break for it, scrambling up a nearby wall. This guild's elite squad recovers instantly, summoning magic weapons to give chase. Two of them leap into the air right after him, axes poised to strike. Down below, the other Yuki yells a warning, seeing they are in a terrible position. But an enforcer cuts him off, still convinced he is the enemy and not a very confused bystander. Zapper, completely unbothered, just calls out another spell from his midair perch. A massive thunder burst erupts, aimed squarely at his pursuers. This lightning attack connects, sending one of the enforcers plummeting to the ground. With a smug look, Zapper declares he is just sending their own pressure right back at them. Both enforcers are sent flying, their pursuit completely and utterly shut down. One of the down members is not out yet, activating a healing skill to get back in the fight. Now glowing with green energy, he warns Zapper not to take another step. So Zapper immediately grabs the pink-haired mage Nano as a hostage, because of course he does. This blue-haired Yuki watches in horror, realizing he is too far away to use his shield to help. Squad leader Algo takes charge, telling his men to watch Yuki while he confronts Zapper. Our blue-haired hero analyzes the grim situation, hoping the squad can still coordinate a rescue. Too late for that as Zapper begins casting again, surrounded by huge, ominous magic circles. Yuki recognizes the large-scale magic and despairs, knowing he cannot protect everyone from what is coming. This blue-haired Yuki tries to play hero, telling everyone to get behind his shield's shadow. But a silver-haired enforcer named Jinky just casually leaps into the fray, clearly unimpressed. She gives a little smirk, telling him there is no need for his help, she's got this covered. Her special skill, Invisible Envision, activates, letting her see Zapper's mana output perfectly. Yuki is completely floored, recognizing the infamous S-rank enforcer, the guild's living rulebook of combat. Jinky draws a bow made of pure energy, preparing to end this fight with a single shot. Then she starts chanting a skill name so absurd it sounds like a bad password, a true power move. Zapper's eyes go wide with shock as he realizes what is about to happen. And just like that, an invisible force slams into him, sending him flying across the plaza. Jinky smugly explains her skill hits before the arrow is even fired, calling Zapper reckless for his all-offense build. Now properly enraged, Zapper recognizes the famous Jinky and starts casting a desperate counterspell. He unleashes Stone Bind, summoning massive chains from the earth to try and trap her. Jinky just ignores it, turning to Yuki and demanding to use his magic, leaving him totally confused. With no time to argue, Yuki decides to trust the S-ranker and starts casting a call of his own. And would not you know it, he summons a Void Saber. Guess our main character is not the only one with that skill. Zapper, having been beaten by this before, just scoffs and prepares a massive spell to overwhelm them both. He launches a huge arrow rain, but aims it at the other squad members to create a diversion. Jinky immediately calls out his cowardly tactic and activates another skill to intercept the attack. Her ability is designed to completely switch the target of an incoming spell. And she redirects the entire barrage right at the blue-haired Yuki, who is not having a good day. So Yuki throws up a void shield, desperately trying to block the attack Jinky just redirected at him, and she just smirks, asking if his little barrier can handle it. A true team player, this one. Our boy is still reeling from the last fight, wondering how Zapper knew his every move, while the rest of the Enforcer squad leaps into action to clean up the mess. Jinky lands the final decisive blow on Zapper, calling out a casual checkmate. With the villain down, her squad moves in to secure the target immediately. She notes their mana was low, correctly guessing they'd just finished a massive fight. After the dust settles, she actually thanks Yuki for his help in wrapping things up. But he is still confused, asking how the hell she knew so much about his magic. She gets right up in his personal space, explaining her skill lets her read anyone's status. Her eyes glow as she compares it to his own machine gun evil eye. Yep, she knows everything. Yuki is completely floored, finally understanding the power of an S-rank enforcer. It all clicks into place. That is how she knew both his and Zapper's spells and mana levels. One of her subordinates reports in that Zapper is restrained and the injured are all treated. Just when it seems over, the enforcer turns his attention back to the matter of Yuki. Jinky seems surprised, asking if he is not cleared of suspicion since he literally helped them. This enforcer addresses Yuki, saying the charges are asterisk, most likely a misunderstanding, real comforting. He follows up with a classic non-apology, thanking Yuki for his help but not clearing his name yet. Yuki is just relieved, offering to cooperate with the investigation into Zapper, however. The enforcer cuts him off, saying the guild has another matter to bring up with him. This enforcer drops the bomb. The dungeon blue-haired Yuki just left was S-rank, and he was not supposed to be in there alone. Our boy is justifiably sweating bullets, completely caught red-handed. A quick reminder of the rules: dungeon exploration requires official guild authorization, no exceptions. This enforcer points out that going solo is a direct violation, putting Yuki in a very tight spot. Jinky argues he is strong enough, but the guild only sees his official E-rank, which is just sad. With a sly grin, Jinky proposes a compromise that sounds suspiciously like a shakedown. Her offer is simple: Yuki will help them clear a dungeon of their asterisk choosing to prove himself. If he passes their little test under supervision, all charges will be dropped, no harm, no foul. Yuki questions the deal, but Jinky insists that clearing dungeons is more important than paperwork. With glowing eyes, she reveals her philosophy: delay is the biggest crime, and she is captain so she can bend the rules. She is eager to see the strategy of a monster tamer firsthand, putting our other asterisk Yuki on the spot. Cut to our main Yuki, who is now worried about this test because his methods involve, illegal talking monsters. A new elf-like character sipping wine tells him to just handle it like he always does, super helpful. Yuki panics, realizing that if the enforcers see his sentient monsters, his adventure license is toast. He's also short-staffed since Elvina is recovering and his cute bat army is not gonna cut it. This elf casually suggests asking a guy named Task, who apparently knows everything. Yuki remembers a fox-eared guy named Task, wondering if he is some kind of specialist. His companion just scoffs at that idea, dismissing the term specialist entirely. And then reveals that Task asterisk is asterisk the dungeon, a collective of all their monsters combined. And we see Task's true form, a terrifying vortex of shadow and power, confirming he is not just some guy. Yuki finally comes face to face with Task, the supposed monster expert he was sent to find. And this fox-eared guy seems way too excited for this meeting, announcing it is his turn to chat. Our boy confirms, explaining he needs advice from someone who asterisk really understands monsters. Task immediately invades his personal space, declaring they are kindred spirits while Yuki looks deeply uncomfortable. He mentions seeing Yuki at Vince's tea parties before, but this is their first real conversation. Then he just casually lifts Yuki into the air, introducing himself as Task Wildwold, a monster researcher apparently. He offers to teach Yuki anything he wants, smugly pointing out that humans have no idea what monsters truly are. Yuki admits that for humans, monsters are just creatures living in dungeons, which Task concedes is not entirely wrong. Then Task drops some philosophy, defining monsters as the collective term for any beings that seek mana. This gears in Yuki's head start turning and he asks the million-dollar question: by that logic, are humans also monsters? With a finger heart and zero hesitation, Task confirms it, adding that becoming a monster is a more accurate term for adventurers. How uplifting. A helpful chibi diagram breaks it down. There are born monsters and then there are humans who become monsterfied. Yuki is having a minor existential crisis over this, while Task is just thrilled they are the same kind of creature and should totally be friends. This leads Yuki to ask if monsters feel any kinship with their own kind, a question Task finds surprisingly tough to answer. For them, he clarifies what really matters is sharing the same mana source. Looks are completely irrelevant. So monsters from the same dungeon are a team, but if they are from different dungeons, they are considered total strangers. It all clicks for Yuki. It is about dungeon affiliation, not race, which explains his team's weird alliances. Snapping back to the mission, Task grabs Yuki again, guessing he needs a monster for the test, one that is calm and does not talk. Exactly, Yuki confirms, and it has to be versatile since his tamer level limits him to just one contracted monster at a time. With a pose worthy of a game show host, Task announces he's got the perfect monster for the job. Problem solved, maybe. Task presents his first candidate for the test, a terrifying purple tyrant dragon he affectionately calls Dragon-chan. Her main selling points are apparently overwhelming vitality and massive firepower, typical house pet qualities. And she immediately tries to roast Yuki with a giant fireball, who is wondering why the job interview started with a murder attempt. It turns out this is the same dragon his party killed before, and she is holding a very, very understandable grudge. So Yuki squares up, ready for a real fight and declaring he is not just going to hide this time. But then the dragon just stops, turning away while our boy is left completely baffled by the sudden ceasefire. Task casually translates that she is impressed he survived her flame breath and will let him off with a warning. Our boy realizes it is a moot point anyway, since he does not have nearly enough mana to contract a beast that powerful. Seeing his disappointment, Task gets way too close, cheerfully offering up smaller options if the big ones are not his type. Next on the monster dating show is a Shadow Claw, a four-legged beast made entirely of darkness. Yuki's eyes light up, totally geeking out because he has never seen one and its skills sound awesome. He approaches it knowing he either needs to negotiate a contract or earn its respect through combat. And the monster just melts into a puddle and flees, leaving Yuki yelling at a retreating blob of goo. Now completely defeated, Yuki collapses to the ground while Task smugly explains why none of the monsters will fight him. Since Yuki is now considered one of them, and his mana is pathetically low, they just do not find him scary at all. Yuki is deeply offended by this, and a little chibi Task just cheerfully confirms they are totally looking down on him. A quick flashback explains the issue. Intelligent monsters respect his lineage, but primal ones only care about raw power. It finally clicks for Yuki that before he can even prove himself, these monsters have already written him off as a total weakling. Task, ever the showman, strikes a pose and announces he will help our boy out with that little respect problem. He then reveals his own race as Chimera, a composite being made from all monsters, meaning he is both everything and nothing. Task explains his Chimera skill lets him freely adjust his own composition, much to Yuki's shock. Then he demonstrates transforming into a shadowy beast using his Encyclopedia of Beasts skill. This transformation perfectly copies everything, right down to the stats as he melts into a purple puddle. From the goo, he reforms into a much more menacing creature, activating Shadow Darker Than Darkness. And this new monster immediately lunges right at Yuki, clearly not here to make friends. Task casually reappears, saying he has set the stage, but earning the monster's respect is all on Yuki now. Our boy accepts the challenge, activating a skill called P Uniform of all things, sure, why not? This shadow beast flattens out and zips toward him with a grin that is just pure nightmare fuel. He barely manages to block the vicious attack with his knife, sparks flying from the impact. Yuki immediately recognizes the power of an S-rank dungeon monster, realizing this is the real deal. Steeling himself for the fight, he admits this is going to be anything but easy. After that warm-up, Task cheerfully introduces the next challenger, a magic-wielding Eyes Owl, which wastes no time unleashing a massive, screen-filling blast of green magical energy. Realizing his normal attacks are too slow, Yuki summons a Void Saber for a desperate defense. He decides this is a battle of endurance, planning to strike the moment danger gets close enough. Our boy holds his stance in the snowy clearing, blade ready and eye glowing, waiting for an opening. A trickle of blood from his lip shows he is already taking damage from the relentless assault. He becomes a blur of motion, darting through the trees to evade the magical onslaught. But the attacks are everywhere, boxing him in and leaving him with nowhere to run. With a desperate swing of his Void Saber, he just barely manages to deflect one of the incoming blasts, and his Void Saber just shatters into a million pieces, completely overwhelmed by the owl's magic. From the snowy woods, the monster just hoots, totally unimpressed by his desperate defense. So Yuki gives chase, vowing to catch the tiny bird that is leading him on this wild goose, owl chase. Task reappears with a grin, announcing the next opponent is a monster with fortress-like defense. This dynamic cancer immediately throws Yuki into a swirling vortex of water and claws. Just as he gets his bearings, the giant crab thing burrows straight underground to hide. He is not worried though, remembering he has dealt with plenty of tough-shelled enemies before. Our boy readies his blade, planning to strike the very instant it decides to resurface. He unleashes a flashy new skill, the Blood Blossom Beautiful, because of course that is its name. For the grand finale, Task cheerfully presents an antinomy snake, a specialist in both poison and cures. Yuki thinks he will be fine if he keeps his distance and then immediately faceplants famous last words. Turns out the snake's poison is airborne, leaving our boy paralyzed while Task just shrugs it off. With his last ounce of strength, he reaches out a hand to summon some much-needed backup. Elvina materializes in her full maid getup, looking mildly inconvenienced by the sudden call. Her eyes narrow, taking in the scene and instantly assessing her master's pathetic situation. She deadpans that his complexion resembles a corpse's while he just begs her to help him already. With the gauntlet over, Task tells a barely standing Yuki that the deeper floors are way too dangerous for now. Yuki catches his breath, admitting he almost died several times but did manage to contract a few monsters. Task praises him, saying it is amazing he survived in Lord Liber's dungeon at all, let alone succeeded. Then with a sly wink, he asks for a thank you gift, an introduction to monsters from other dungeons. Yuki confirms Task's weird request. He wants monsters from other dungeons for research. With their parts, Task explains he can finally figure out what the heck he actually is. His ultimate goal is to unravel every single monster that makes up his chimera existence, and he is practically sparkling with joy, admitting he has had high hopes for Yuki from the start. It all clicks for our boy. This whole mentorship was just a quid pro quo for monster parts. Task asks him to bring them back alive if possible, which Yuki points out is a ridiculously tall order. He is still trying to figure out which monster to even use since none of them are versatile enough. Seeing the pressure, Task immediately backpedals, telling him to just lie and say okay, a true professional. But Yuki has a different idea brewing in his head. With his eye glowing, he announces he has something he wants to try, a plan of his own. Cut to the dungeon briefing, where a white-robed guild enforcer lays out the details for the test. This target is a B-rank dungeon with 4 floors, each with completely different monsters and terrain. And for the grand finale, the boss is a giant mother spider, because everyone loves those. Yuki gets his official orders: clear the entire thing solo within 1 week. His chaperone makes it painfully clear they will not lift a finger to help him no matter what. Now suited up in some new gear, Yuki confidently states that he is fully prepared. This enforcer notes his light equipment, sarcastically asking if he thinks this is just a scouting run. Still, the facts remain: a B-rank dungeon solo in 7 days is a monumental task. This makes the enforcer realize Captain Jinky must have an insane amount of faith in Yuki's abilities. 1 hour later, they stand at the cave entrance to the first floor, ready to begin the trial. Yuki arrives on the second floor, a jungle, confirming the intel that each level is a totally different biome. His chaperone watches from a distance, impressed that the kid is not just relying on his summons to get by. And speak of the devil, a volley of sharp spikes immediately erupts from the trees. Our boy barely dodges the surprise attack, which seems to be coming from everywhere at once. This culprits are a bunch of creepy little gremlins, cackling as they swarm him with pure malice. He recognizes them instantly, demon apes, and they look absolutely thrilled to be here. Worse, it is not just a few of them, it is an entire welcoming committee of toothy nightmares. Surrounded, he realizes they are too fast, constantly zipping in and out of his line of sight. So he decides it is time to even the odds, activating his summoning skill with a flash of light. From the sidelines, the enforcer leans in, wondering what kind of ace Yuki has up his sleeve. And he summons the Shadow Claw, the very same beast that tried to ghost him back in Task's dungeon. This new pet wastes zero time, immediately tearing into the ape swarm with a vengeance. Our boy smirks, pointing out that hiding in the shadows is a terrible plan against a monster asterisk made asterisk of them. This Shadow Claw just goes to town, turning the ambush into an all-you-can-eat buffet. His chaperone is floored, realizing Yuki contracted a top-tier monster you rarely see outside S-rank dungeons. With the area secured, Yuki just casually dusts himself off and signals it is time to move on. This whole thing has the enforcer rethinking, admitting that dungeons are absolutely not meant for solo runs. To clear one alone is the stuff of legends, the kind of feat only S-rank captains pull off. They reach the 3rd floor, an endless ocean under a blood-red sky, and the problem here is a giant, horrifying butterflyfish monster bursting from the water to say hello with its teeth. This enforcer sees the problem: shadows do not work on water, leaving Yuki's ace summon totally useless. So Yuki just unsummons it, recalling the Shadow Claw to save on mana. From the sidelines, the chaperone nods, recognizing a smart, mana-efficient tactic when he sees one, and in its place he immediately summons the dynamic Cancer, the giant crab from Task's dungeon. His chaperone is absolutely floored, realizing Yuki can chain summon top-tier monsters like it is nothing. Our boy points dramatically, ordering his new crustacean buddy to get to work. This all flashes back to his conversation with Task, revealing the master plan he has been cooking up. He confirms that Task's encyclopedia skill can copy a monster's form, stats, and even transformations. Yuki's theory is simple: if Task transforms into a weaker creature, the mana cost to summon him should plummet. Task just casually admits he has never tried it, because why would he ever want to be weaker? This kid's logic is that he cannot afford Task's true form, but a discount version might be summonable, maid outfit and all. He's basically banking on a system loophole. If it is still Task, the transformation might fool the mana cost. This real prize here is that if he can summon Task, he can summon any asterisk monster through him. It finally clicks: Task is not just a mentor, he is the ultimate, all-purpose monster Yuki's been looking for. Task is totally on board with being a test subject, agreeing the theory sounds solid enough to try. So Yuki makes his pitch, a contract in exchange for a world tour of new monster parts for Task's research. Task is clearly impressed by the offer, calling our boy a genuine monster charmer. With a sharp-clawed hand, he accepts the deal without a second thought, and dramatically declares that he, Task Wildwold, will become Yuki's servant. He is a little bummed he cannot go full power, but promises to show off every other trick in his Chimera book. Back in the dungeon, Yuki puts all his faith in his new all-purpose summon. Task, meanwhile, is just geeking out over the monster's biology, calling its tentacles ripped. Our boy has to remind his S-rank partner not to get distracted and break the only form he can afford. With a flash of his glowing eye, Yuki activates a skill to pinpoint the enemy's weak spot. He immediately finds it, ordering Task to go for the giant butterflyfish's vulnerable third arm. So Task, in full crab mode, unleashes a skill with the subtle name Mash and Grind Bones to pulp, and the monster gets absolutely annihilated in a glorious explosion of pink goo. With the area secured, the chaperone can only stare, completely floored by this display of power. They arrive on the 5th floor, which is just a hallway full of magical laser tripwires. For this, Yuki has Task transform into the Eyes Owl to just shoot the magic circles out of the air. This owl unleashes a massive volley of energy blasts, clearing the path with ease. And just to be safe, Yuki throws up a void shield to cover their advance. Their next stop is the 7th floor, a charming little place called the Poison Swamp. Yuki's senses immediately tell him one path is a death trap, so he quickly changes course. His chaperone is stunned, realizing the kid is moving even faster than a full party could. Suddenly, Yuki's face twists in horror as he screams a warning to his escort Dugo, but it is too late. A snake-like creature has already latched onto the enforcer's neck. This thing is basically a living syringe, injecting a nasty dose of venom straight into him. Thinking fast, Yuki summons the one monster built for this exact problem, the antinomy snake. Dugo just stares in disbelief, realizing Yuki just summoned a monster with healing powers. This antinomy snake uses its own venom to cure Dugo, and Yuki is impressed by the convenient biology. This has Dugo questioning his whole job description. He is a supervisor, not a party member needing a rescue. He is remembering Yuki's whole "if I die it is on me" speech, yet the kid just saved his life anyway. This hits Dugo right in the feels, making him realize this is what being human is all about. And then the guy just starts cackling like a maniac, completely weirding out our boy. This enforcer admits that compared to the captain, his own ability to judge people is absolute garbage. With a newfound respect, Dugo straight up tells Yuki he is an incredible adventurer. His chaperone is suddenly all hyped up, vowing to clear the dungeon in a week while Yuki just kinda goes along with it. But our boy then drops the bomb that he is not waiting a week, he is planning to finish it today. This enforcer's brain just blue screens, unable to process that level of confidence. Dugo sputters that he thought the light gear was for scouting, but Yuki confirms it is for a day trip. He clarifies that getting to the final floor is not the issue, plenty of people manage that. This actual problem is the boss, which wiped the floor with a team of 8 rank elites. So he just stares at Yuki, seriously questioning if the kid understands the scale of what he is proposing. Our boy just smiles, saying he has already got a strategy, which makes Dugo ask how he managed that from a pamphlet. Simple, he says, he already ran a full-blown combat simulation against the real deal. They reach the boss room, a giant cavern of webs, and Dugo admits the kid has plenty of combat data. He warns that this boss is special, though, as the horrifying puppet arachne makes its grand entrance. Yuki just draws his blade, eye glowing, and declares it is time to start the conquest. Because of course it is, and the puppet arachne lets out a shriek, looking more than ready for a fight. Dugo sweats bullets, explaining this boss is not just a big spider. It uses its threads to control other monsters, turning them into creepy little puppets. And while you might see minions like this elsewhere, this boss-level version is a whole other nightmare. Because it controls 4 monsters from the previous floors all at the same time, leaving Yuki completely surrounded by the dungeon's greatest hits all on strings. Dugo points out that even full parties get wiped by this kind of coordinated assault. So Yuki summons the Eyes Owl, using it to get some much-needed airtime. Then he immediately unsummons it, basically using it as a one-time pogo stick. Now he is just free-falling from the ceiling as the monster puppets watch from below. His chaperone is absolutely losing it, screaming that there is nowhere to run in midair. But our boy is already winding up for his next summon, looking totally unfazed. He brings out the dynamic cancer, landing on its shell like a pro surfer. Dugo realizes the whole thing was a feint to draw aggro for a massive Aya crush. Except the puppet arachne just summons a fresh batch of minions without breaking a sweat. This chaperone sees the real problem. The boss has infinite reinforcements and they will get worn down. Yuki just cycles his summons again, dismissing the crab and getting ready for round 3. In its place, he calls out the Shadow Claw to tear into the new arrivals. Our boy smirks, confirming everything is going exactly to plan. First, take one down. Flashback to a blue crystal, revealing the source of his combat data. He'd asked Task if he could transform into the puppet arachne, setting up the perfect simulation. Yuki realizes Task's transformations are perfect for a pre-dungeon mock battle, which is just brilliant. Task, however, clarifies he only copies average stats, not the souped-up boss versions. Taking that into account, Yuki asks his partner to show him what the real puppet arachne is like. His mentor immediately obliges, transforming into the horrifying spider to give him a live demo. Using his evil eye, Yuki instantly deciphers its main gimmick, a skill for perfectly coordinated control. This boss's whole deal is using paralytic venom to control unconscious prey and drag them to its nest. This gives Yuki the loophole he needs. If the puppets are conscious, the spider cannot control them. Task immediately connects the dots, guessing Yuki wants to use the antinomy snake to break the paralysis. There is a catch, though. Task points out the snake can only seal their movement for a moment. Our boy just shakes his head, revealing he has an even better plan up his sleeve. Snapping back to the present, Yuki is surrounded and asks Task for the puppet's stats. He recalls a key lesson from his training: monsters that run on pure instinct will only ever bow to one thing, and that is overwhelming strength. And these puppets are just a mindless, chaotic swarm lashing out at anything that moves. Yuki confirms they are not following complex orders, just a simple attack command. His opening is clear: to control their movements, he just has to become the biggest threat. So he starts baiting them one by one, literally yelling "next" to draw their aggro. Meanwhile, the puppet Arachne screeches, clearly not a fan of its puppets being kited. But thanks to his simulation, he knows the exact range of its threads and predicts its next puppet grab. His Shadow Claw has already dealt with one, meaning the boss's next choice is perfectly predictable. This boss's glowing threads are latched onto every puppet, pulling all the strings. Down below, Yuki is completely boxed in by the spider's mind-controlled army. With a smirk, he declares his trap is set, activating a new summon with a glowing hand. He calls out the antinomy snake, ordering it to break the paralysis on the tentacle monster. And with a flash of light, the snake's venom frees the puppet from the spider's control. This puppet Arachne absolutely loses its mind, screeching as its hold on the minion shatters. Yuki lays out the boss's fatal flaw: it has to paralyze its puppets to control them properly. While that works for weaker monsters, the strongest one in the dungeon is a different story. Because if all 4 puppets were running wild, even the boss could not keep them in line. This spider just stares down, realizing its entire strategy has been completely dismantled. Our boy just points his sword, telling the boss it has got no choice but to go down. As the monster screeches, the tentacle puppet finally breaks free from its psychic chains. Yuki notes that while the boss is distracted, the newly freed monster is about to get busy. And since it is running on pure instinct, it is going to attack the closest target, which is him. So he summons the dynamic cancer again, banking on its indestructible shell for a quick defense. This giant crab erupts from the ground, and Yuki immediately vaults onto its back for safety. He explains the final checkmate: the boss has no shield and its threads are too far out, leaving it wide open for an attack it absolutely cannot stop. And he unleashes a devastating sword art, filling the cavern with a storm of slashes. This freed tentacle monster turns on Yuki, but the dynamic cancer is ready to intercept with its own bone-crushing skill. With the boss reduced to a memory, Yuki coolly announces the conquest is complete. Dugo is just staring, realizing the kid does not just command his summons but the enemies too. Our boy turns with a grin, asking his chaperone if that little performance earned his approval. But Dugo just tells him to rank up as fast as humanly possible, leaving Yuki totally confused. This enforcer clarifies that Yuki has the power to clear way more than just this one dungeon, insisting it'd be a total waste for someone with his talent not to climb the ranks immediately. 6 days later, Yuki is already on his final dungeon for rank promotion, looking completely wiped out. For this mission, Dugo explains it is not a simple conquest but a joint investigation quest. Yuki is understandably confused, having never heard of such a thing before. Their target is a named one, a special monster that breaks all the normal rules of its species. Our boy admits he has never heard of them, so Dugo starts the lecture. He reveals that the carrot monster Yuki fought before was actually one of these special variants. Dugo explains that most monsters have stats that fall within a predictable, boring range, even giving a cute little presentation on slimes. Some are pretty weak, others just sorta weak. But every so often, you get a shiny variant that transcends its limits, like a slime that just ignores physical attacks. These special individuals get nicknames from adventurers just so people know what they are dealing with. He gives an example of a slime named one called Useless Liquid, which sounds incredibly insulting. Yuki connects the dots, realizing these are unique monsters that Task cannot fully copy. He recalls a lesson from his mentor, Machina, about the 3 different types of skills. Skills can come from your job, your species, or in the case of named ones, from the individual's own mastery. Task pipes up that by this logic, he is technically a named one himself. His Encyclopedia of Beasts is a unique all-purpose skill that only he can use, making him a special little guy. Yuki immediately connects the dots, asking if these variants can eventually reach Demon King levels of power. Dugo confirms it is not unheard of, which is why they are here to assess the threat before it gets out of hand. Since it is a joint mission, he suggests they go build some rapport with the other parties at the entrance. Our boy turns to see the team he is supposed to be coordinating with, and is immediately spotted by another party, who recognize him as the legend clearing dungeons left and right. This girl in their group is completely baffled, wondering how it is even possible to solo as a monster tamer. Meanwhile, another group gossips about how he has contracted high-rank monsters and dives into S-rank dungeons. His reputation has even earned him a new title, Human-Shaped Dungeon Yuki, which is just amazing. One of the adventurers nervously hopes Yuki is not after their target, wanting absolutely no part of his chaos. Yuki points out the obvious to Dugo: everyone is actively keeping their distance from them. His chaperone just smiles, explaining that unique adventures get titles just like unique monsters do. Of course, the other parties also spot Dugo's Purge Division uniform and start panicking about a supervisor. Our boy notes they are scared of Dugo too, who is just annoyed that his job is basically being the fun police. Ignoring all the social anxiety in the room, Yuki just draws his sword, ready to get started. And just then, a thorny vine monster snatches a girl from one of the other parties right into the air. Her teammates are horrified, realizing the monster was perfectly camouflaged as a tree. Suddenly, a whole grove of these monsters comes alive, unleashing a storm of attacks on the adventurers. But Yuki is already moving, his hand glowing as he prepares to summon a solution to this ambush. Without missing a beat, Yuki summons the Shadow Claw to counter the sudden ambush. His shadowy beast erupts onto the scene, ready to shred some overgrown houseplants. Meanwhile, a white-robed adventurer is already healing the girl who got snatched. She is understandably grateful, having just been used as a human yo-yo by a tree. Back in the fight, Yuki is already carving a path through the thorny chaos. He takes command, announcing he will use his skill to spot the camouflaged enemies and lead the charge. This other adventurers just nervously agree, probably relieved someone else is calling the shots. His summon zips through the forest, flushing out the hidden plant monsters one by one. Our boy notes that for a C-rank dungeon, this place is absolutely crawling with enemies. Dugo explains why it is an abandoned dungeon with terrible access and worthless materials. Because of that, almost no one ever bothers coming here to clear it out. He says most neglected dungeons fester like this until a real problem like a named one pops up. This chaperone laments that there just are not enough real adventurers to manage all these places. Yuki just casually promises to clear the entire dungeon himself after their investigation is done. But then his evil eye flares up, sensing something just ahead of them. He quickly stops the group, warning them that their target is close. One of the other adventurers looks on, completely confused by the warning, and their terrifying, rule-breaking named one is revealed to be an adorable, fluffy little carbuncle. This girl who is nearly plant food is now having a full-on cuteness-induced meltdown. Yuki identifies the creature, noting carbuncles are known for high intelligence and being great at running away. Yuki's evil eye flares up, confirming he can see the fluffy creature's unique skill. But one of the other adventurers just charges straight in, completely ignoring Yuki's warning. This little carbuncle is totally shocked, wondering why a bunch of humans are suddenly in its home. In a panic, it unleashes its signature move, a reality-warping skill called Total Chaos Labyrinth. Immediately, the entire dungeon begins to shift, with massive stone walls erupting from the ground. This girl from the other party finds herself completely alone, separated from everyone else in the chaos. Another adventurer notes this matches the report, a skill that literally reconstructs the dungeon at will. This named one, Fairy Tale, is so powerful its labyrinth even shows glimpses of a modern city. This whole landscape shatters and reforms, turning the once stable forest into a death trap. That reckless adventurer from before barely dodges a falling boulder, a nice reward for his impatience. His buddy declares they just need to defeat the carbuncle since the skill is not a direct attack, famous last words. Meanwhile, the little monster is just trying to run, letting its chaotic maze do all the heavy lifting. And right on cue, the ground gives way, sending the two overconfident guys plummeting into a pit. Yuki spots the trapdoor and tells Dugo he is going down to rescue the two morons. This white-robed adventurer agrees to find the others, tossing Yuki a device just in case. Our boy catches the tool, which looks like some kind of emergency escape item. It is confirmed to be an escape device, a last-resort teleport for when things get really bad. Without a second of hesitation, Yuki dives headfirst into the chasm after them. He lands safely on the floor below, now deep inside the shifting, unpredictable labyrinth. Wasting no time, he calls out to the two adventurers who took the express trip down. Yuki's eye widens, realizing they have stumbled into something way bigger than a lost pet rescue. These two adventurers are completely terrified, asking what fresh hell has just appeared before them. A massive wooden titan reveals itself, announcing it is here because someone was chasing its subordinate. This thing starts ominously counting down, pointing a finger at the three humans trapped below. Towering over them, the monster finishes its count, marking them all for immediate deletion. It then turns to the carbuncle, promising to erase the intruders for its fluffy friend, who calls him Lord Zeras. Yuki's evil eye flares, confirming this is not just some random heavy, it is the actual dungeon boss way too early. Zeras then orders the carbuncle to use its reality-warping skill to help out in the fight. With introductions over, the boss squares up against Yuki and his two new, very temporary dependents. Zeras declares they will pay for trespassing, charging up a massive skill with glowing green energy. He unleashes a storm of piercing roots, aiming to turn the entire party into human shish kebabs. Seeing the attack is way too much for the others, Yuki immediately prepares a countersummon. He calls out the dynamic cancer, throwing his trusty crab shield in the path of the deadly assault. This boss is genuinely surprised, admitting he did not expect one of them to actually be able to fight back. Behind the shell, Yuki's catboy summon complains that the impact still really hurt, so much for a perfect defense. This crab's armor starts to crack under the immense pressure, and it clearly will not hold for long. Taking command, Yuki shoves the two useless adventurers behind him for protection. He even hands one of them his sword, telling him to use it, which is a bold move considering the guy's track record. Our boy realizes the terrifying truth, his evil eye could not even analyze that last skill. This boss, Zeras, is on a completely different level than anything the intel suggested. Zeras gloats that they are totally powerless, charging up a skill to prove his point. Realizing the attack comes from underground, Yuki screams for everyone to watch their feet. At the boss's command, the little carbuncle activates its reality warping skill once again. This entire floor erupts in a storm of stone spikes, trapping Yuki and his two useless wards. Our boy looks on in horror as Zeras just smirks, enjoying the absolute chaos he has unleashed. This boss reveals his ultimate combo, mixing the labyrinth skill with his piercing attack for maximum pain. After all that, the little carbuncle looks completely drained, having used up all its energy. This giant tree monster gently reassures his fluffy little subordinate, glad that it is safe from the scary humans. His carbuncle thanks him, clearly surprised to see the final boss slumming it on a lower floor. Dismissing its concerns, Zeras boasts that as long as he is around, he can just make more floors. His crab shield is shattering under the pressure as the boss monologues about his world-building powers. But from behind the broken shell, Yuki summons an ice lance, blasting right through the defense. Unimpressed, Zeras just scoffs, letting the ice attack shatter harmlessly against his wooden body. Emerging from the dust, Yuki notes that sneak attacks are completely useless against this guy. This boss seems genuinely confused, wondering how Yuki survived and where the other two adventurers vanished. Yuki just flashes a smug grin, basically telling the boss to take a wild guess. In his head, he reveals he used a one-shot skill to save them but now cannot resummon his crab shield. He confirms he successfully sent the two liabilities back to safety, leaving him alone to face the boss. Now that the dead weight is gone, Yuki draws his sword, ready for a proper one-on-one duel. This wooden titan just looks annoyed, muttering about how clever weak little humans can be, a classic villain complaint. Zeras calls Yuki irritating, which is probably the nicest thing anyone said about him all day. He then orders his fluffy little accomplice to get back to work, and the carbuncle happily obliges. With another reality warp, the carbuncle reactivates its total chaos labyrinth skill. At the same time, Zeras unleashes a new attack, a barrage of giant, spiky blue maces. This piercing grudge skill homes in on Yuki, who is now trapped in a blender of rocks and pain. Our boy barely dodges, completely shocked that this kind of wombo combo is even legal. Zeras gloats that with the terrain constantly shifting, Yuki's big crab shield is totally useless now. This little carbuncle just keeps screaming, letting its reality-bending powers do all the dirty work. Surrounded on all sides, Yuki has to weave through a storm of homing projectiles. He notes they're not trying to box him in this time, which is a small mercy but still a huge problem. Realizing he is just going to get worn down, a new plan starts to form in his head. His owl summon pops out, offering to provide some magical support from the air. But Yuki immediately unsummons it, deciding he's got a much better and probably crazier idea. This boss just laughs, convinced that nothing Yuki can summon will be able to block this assault. With a smirk, Yuki clarifies he is done playing defense. It is time to go on the attack. A massive pillar of fire erupts from his hand, signaling a brand new summon entering the fray. Through the flames, a new pair of eyes watches the incoming attack with total confidence. Floating down from the sky, a woman prepares to meet the boss's attack head-on, and his trump card is an undead maid who is already complaining about her work uniform. Yuki explains her special trait. As an undead, she has a body that never gets tired. Yuki explains this new summon has another little perk besides being tireless. His undead maid gleefully activates her super strength skill to return the favor. This dungeon boss is completely floored, not expecting this kind of pushback at all. So she just rips a whole chunk of the dungeon floor out and hurls it right back at him. It smashes right into Zeras, sending the wooden titan flying with a satisfying crunch. His new summon then smugly asks why he did not just call her up earlier to make things easier. Yuki explains he could not summon his undead maid in front of witnesses, plus he kinda forgot she was an option. He just brushes it off, saying a last-minute save is still a save, and turns his attention back to the boss. Meanwhile, Zeras is struggling to his feet, absolutely furious that his body is taking actual damage. His little fluffy sidekick wisely suggests that maybe it is time for a tactical retreat, but Zeras is having none of it, screaming that one more big attack will definitely finish them for sure. This carbuncle pleads with him not to use the reconstruction skill again, warning it'll damage his own body. Unhinged, the boss just roars back, basically asking what is so bad about a little dungeon collapse. His insane plan is to bring the whole dungeon down on their heads to get rid of one guy. That phrase triggers something in Yuki, who looks horrified as a vision of a burning building flashes in his mind. And we get a quick history lesson. The first nation to discover a dungeon was a global superpower. Unfortunately, that same nation was also the first to experience a dungeon collapse, which started a chain reaction. Within hours, that entire country was literally wiped off the face of the planet. This catastrophe is the entire reason the adventurer profession and the guild were created in the first place. But even now, these disasters still happen, a tragedy Yuki seems to remember all too well. Yuki's face drops at the mention of a dungeon collapse, a world-ending event. Even the little carbuncle begs Zeras to stop, warning that this plan will hurt him too. It explains that taking more damage while reconstructing could be catastrophic for the boss. This fluffy creature pleads, saying Zeras could lose control of the entire dungeon. Zeras, in a classic villain move, accuses his loyal subordinate of mocking him. His ego is so massive he cannot even imagine losing to a single human. He then admits the carbuncle's skill was useful, almost making him a demon king. But now that its purpose is served, he is just gonna steal the skill for himself. What a great boss. This poor little guy is completely blindsided by this sudden, very hostile corporate restructuring, and just like that, Zeras impales his own subordinate to absorb its power. Yuki can only stare in disbelief at this absolutely savage turn of events. This boss literally dissolves the carbuncle, making its reality-warping ability a part of him. With the assimilation complete, Zeras announces all conversation is over, a gem now glowing in his chest. He immediately unleashes the stolen Total Chaos Labyrinth skill, screaming for them to die. Realizing the boss just skilljacked his own minion, Yuki orders his maid to take action. His undead summon tries to hold back the shifting dungeon walls with her bare hands. This walls start closing in, threatening to crush her completely. On top of that, Zeras fires his piercing grudge attack, pinning her in place. She gets skewered but just complains that it is a little oey because being dead has its perks. This maid is totally fine, cheerfully confirming her undead body feels no pain, much to Yuki's stoic acceptance. Yuki yells to his maid he is going in for the strike, getting a ready confirmation. She knows they have to take him down fast, screaming that this dungeon is way too dangerous. Even our boy is panicking, realizing the dungeon collapse threat is terrifyingly real. Zeras just roars for them to stop darting around, activating another skill with his stolen power. This Total Chaos Labyrinth kicks in again, dropping the floor out from under Yuki. With nowhere to land, he is forced to unsummon his undead maid to keep her safe. Zeras immediately follows up with a piercing killing intent attack, trying to skewer him mid-fall. Thinking fast, Yuki summons his wise owl for a much-needed aerial rescue. This boss is absolutely furious he cannot land a hit, preparing to unleash even more power. Suddenly, the whole place starts shaking, and Yuki knows this is no ordinary earthquake. From the owl's back, he sees Zeras literally smashing the upper floors down on top of them. His owl just screeches that the boss is insane, destroying his own dungeon to get to them. Zeras then forms a massive club out of the debris, ready to crush and pierce them both. Our boy looks up, realizing this next attack is absolutely devastating and unavoidable. But out of nowhere, a new summon appears, a knight in white armor calling out his name. Yuki just reaches out, completely shocked by this last-second, unexpected reinforcement. This new knight unleashes a wave of ice, freezing the entire Rutendrock avalanche solid. This whole attack is stopped dead in its tracks, encased in a massive block of ice. Zeras just stares in disbelief, the gem in his chest glowing as he processes this new development. He then roars into the frozen cavern, demanding to know where the hell Yuki disappeared to. Yuki sits down, relieved after that close call, but wondering why this mysterious knight is even here. This hooded rescuer explains he only saw the two liabilities return, which was a pretty big red flag. Realizing Yuki was still inside, he charged back in alone right as the whole place started coming down. After the floor collapsed, Yuki just sarcastically chalks their survival up to dumb luck, classic Yuki. But he quickly gets serious, shouting that them getting out alive is the least of their worries. This knight confirms he already heard about the boss appearing on a shallow floor from the other two. And Yuki drops the real bombshell: they are facing a full-blown dungeon collapse crisis. His new ally is completely floored, barely able to process the world-ending implications. Yuki wants to deal with it immediately, but warns that it is going to take some serious time. Because as the knight explains, nobody really understands how collapses work, just that they are bad. Once one starts, it is a total wipeout of the dungeon and the surrounding area, a disaster with no survivors. Clenching his fist, Yuki knows just how dangerous this situation has become. He saw the boss's chaotic power firsthand, confirming this was not just some empty villain threat. This knight agrees, but reveals all the S-rank adventurers are busy fighting other Demon King-class bosses. We get a quick glimpse of the top-tier heroes already tied up in their own epic battles, including a badass archer riding a massive dragon, so yeah, they are a little preoccupied. With all the heavy hitters occupied, calling them back to deal with this new crisis will take way too long. Yuki, ever the pragmatist, declares they will just have to manage with the adventurers they have on hand. His companion scoffs, pointing out most adventurers are just mercenaries who will not risk annihilation for charity. He then admits that selfless heroes like Yuki are an endangered species in this line of work. Yuki's mind is racing, totally panicked by the sheer scale of this world-ending threat. This knight immediately takes charge, saying they need to report to the guild and start evacuations. Agreeing to split up, Yuki volunteers to handle the guild while the knight seeks out his own team. This knight's plan is to find his captain, hoping their comms still work deep inside another dungeon. He gives Yuki one last warning not to be reckless, admitting they might not even be able to stop this. Our boy agrees out loud, but his face screams he has absolutely no intention of waiting around. And yeah, the second the knight is gone, he admits there is no way he can just sit quietly. He knows going back in is a terrible idea, but a new, probably worse plan is already forming. Yuki realizes that while collapses are a mystery to humans, Zeras knew exactly how to trigger one. So he decides to get answers from another source, a powerful demon lord sitting on a throne. This new guy looks down from his seat, completely unimpressed by Yuki's sudden appearance. Yuki demands to know everything about how dungeons work and the nature of monsters like him. This demon lord just smirks, confirming that Yuki wants to learn all their dirty little secrets. He says he'd normally refuse, but a clueless human charging into a collapsing dungeon is just bad for business. So Yuki cuts right to the chase, asking the one question that matters: what causes a collapse? This guy pours a drink, explaining that while the paths vary, the final trigger is always the same. It all kicks off when a dungeon boss completely loses control of their own domain. He elaborates that dungeons are unnatural spaces, requiring a ridiculous amount of mana just to exist. To protect the monsters inside, the boss has to literally burn their own life force to keep the place stable, and to keep their dungeons from failing, they find other methods, like making use of people like Yuki. This demon lord explains some bosses fail by stretching their space beyond what they can handle, a real workplace hazard. Others just pump in way too much mana, creating a dungeon that is basically a ticking time bomb, and when that delicate balance finally breaks, he demonstrates by shattering his wine glass with the bottle. This whole dungeon implodes, taking everything with it as Yuki absorbs this horrifying lecture. Yuki finally gets it, the aftershocks are the world-ending disasters everyone on the surface fears. His demonic informant confirms it, looking bored as he explains they have to carefully manage their domains to survive. In Ziroz's case, he has been spamming his reconstruction skill, putting a ridiculous strain on his own body. So the demon lord's advice is simple: let Ziroz self-destruct and just do nothing, problem solved. Yuki, of course, immediately shuts that down, prompting a very annoyed "why not?" from the throne. Because innocent people could get hurt, he argues, showing off that classic hero complex. This demon lord basically says tough luck, pointing out that if Yuki dies, a lot of monsters are in trouble too, but if our boy still insists on playing the hero. The demon lord's hand starts to glow ominously. He unleashes a wave of pure force, deciding a friendly chat just is not going to cut it. Yuki gets absolutely blasted backwards, completely unprepared for this level of power. Casually stepping on the broken glass, the demon lord clarifies he is not going to kill him, which is nice, I guess. His plan is just to beat Yuki down until he is too weak to move, a slightly more aggressive form of house arrest. The sheer mana pressure has Yuki pinned, his evil eye screaming danger alerts non-stop. He cannot believe it, this casual flick of the wrist was stronger than any magic trial he has ever faced. This demon lord knows Yuki will not fold easily, so he is planning to be extra thorough in his beatdown, and he reaches out again, ready to put our boy on ice for his own good. Yuki screams his thanks for the demon lord's very painful brand of trust. He is getting tossed around, realizing this guy knows his entire playbook, which is a problem. This demon lord just casually steps forward, not even breaking a sweat. With a single stomp, the entire throne room floor shatters under his immense power. Our boy can barely stand, completely stunned by this guy's off-the-charts power level. When Yuki asks if he is cool with trashing his own place, the demon lord calls it pocket change. He then adds this whole beatdown is for Yuki's own good. What a thoughtful guy. Yuki knows a head-on fight is a one-way ticket to getting absolutely flattened. This demon lord is basically a mind reader, calling out that he sees a plan forming in Yuki's eyes. So the kid tries to use wind magic to create some distance, hoping for a breather. And that plan lasts about half a second before the demon lord appears right in his face, calling it pointless. Our boy is completely floored, screaming about teleportation skills, but the demon lord clarifies he is just moving too fast for Yuki's eyes to even track. Ouch. Wiping blood from his lip, Yuki admits he really thought he was getting strong. His captor actually agrees, saying he is strong enough that he'd bet his own life on him. Even so, he is not convinced Yuki can stop a world-ending event all by himself. He is basically forbidding Yuki from going on a suicide mission, a fight he cannot possibly win. Our boy just hangs his head, admitting he knows the odds are terrible, but he grabs the demon lord, declaring he refuses to be too late again, even if it costs him his life. In a last-ditch effort, Yuki tries to summon anything to get out of this. This demon lord recognizes Yuki's sword stance, but knows it is completely useless with this power gap. He calls it a bluff, assuming our boy is just setting up some kind of preloaded spell. With a massive magic circle, he prepares to block whatever's coming, total overkill mode activated. But Yuki just screams a single word, signaling his actual plan, and summons his undead maid Elvina, not for a fight but for a ride out of there. His only order is to get them as far away from this helpful chat as humanly possible. In a flash of lightning, they teleport away, leaving the demon lord in the dust. He just stands there, admitting he did not see that particular escape plan coming. But he smirks, reminding himself that you cannot exactly run from a demon king, this is just delaying the inevitable. Meanwhile, Yuki and Elvina land safely in a sunny forest, our boy gasping his thanks. She's a little confused, asking why his telepathic call for a spell turned into "let us run from our boss." Elvina offers to smooth things over, but Yuki insists he did nothing wrong, which is technically true if you ignore the whole defying a demon lord part. They have no idea where they are, though Elvina guesses they are on a floor above their boss's chambers. Exhausted, Yuki just says they need to find an exit and get out of this mess. But then a command echoes through the dungeon, targeting every single floor. And the order goes out to all monsters: capture adventurer Yuki alive by any means necessary. Elvina just stares at him, demanding to know what fresh hell he has just unleashed upon them. Our boy just sighs, admitting he knew this day would come and calling out the demon lord Liber by name. He accepts the challenge, declaring he is ready to fight the entire dungeon if he has to. And right on cue, a giant monster wolf erupts from the water, ready for round one. This giant wolf roars, ready to tear them apart, no time for a breather. Yuki and Elvina stand their ground, sword drawn and ready for whatever this dungeon throws at them. One monster down, and Yuki's already complaining that S-rank dungeons are totally broken. He is not wrong. His mana is completely shot, so Elvena's question gets a hard no. Another jump is off the table. Checking a map on his device, Yuki says their top priority is finding a safe zone on this floor. Then he gets a little worried, asking Elvena if she is actually okay with defying their demon lord boss. Elvena explains that he is underestimating his own power. Once a contract is formed, monsters cannot disobey him. Our boy immediately picks up on the loophole, realizing ordinary means Demon King types can just ignore him. We see a few of those exceptions, and Elvena just confirms she never planned on dragging him back to Liber anyway. A very confused Chibayuki just looks up and asks the obvious question, why not? With a smug little smile, she reminds him it is because he, Master, can stop a full-on dungeon collapse. Her faith comes from his track record. She heard he overturned an impossible fight just to resurrect her. Holding his face, she insists that Liber is just being overprotective and worrying way too much. Our boy is just stunned silent by her complete and total confidence in his abilities. Yuki's a little flustered by her trust, but she points out he is just way too unaware of his own value. And just then, a new voice agrees with her, as someone else steps into the scene right in front of them. His head snaps up, instantly on guard as he realizes they are not alone anymore. This new arrival is a sharp-dressed older gentleman, and he is not talking to Yuki. He is calling out to someone named Vint. This Vint guy, rocking a purple sword, actually compliments Yuki's mindset for being instantly ready to throw down. He's got a compliment, sure, but the look in his eye screams there is a very big however coming. And Vint wastes no time, immediately clashing with Yuki in a storm of purple energy. This older swordsman easily overpowers him, lecturing that this level of skill will not stop a collapse. Yuki can barely hold on, thinking his opponent's insane sword swings are just as wild as ever. This guy continues his TED talk mid-fight, saying just finding an opening is not good enough this time. With another powerful blow, Vint keeps pressing his advantage, completely shutting Yuki down. He tells our boy he needs something overwhelming to win, a real helpful tip, thanks. This whole battle is just a blur of motion, with Vint clearly running the entire show. He demands an absolute victory, driving his point home with another devastating strike. Our boy gets sent flying, eating dirt as the one-sided beatdown continues without a break. Vint explains that to stop a collapse, the win has to be flawless and optimal, no pressure or anything. Desperate, Yuki tries to activate one of his own skills to finally turn the tables. He unleashes his Blood Blossom Beautiful Blade, a signature move he has relied on before, but it is not enough and he gets a fresh cut across the face for his trouble. Suddenly, a massive chunk of the ground itself starts to rise into the air. Elvena joins the fray, using her undead super strength to literally weaponize the landscape. As she hoists the giant rock, Vint just looks up, completely unfazed and readying his own skill. His eye glows as he announces his own version of the move, Blood Blossom Blade Form 2. In a flash of red light, he completely obliterates the massive boulder Elvena was holding. Yuki is just floored, realizing this is a new technique he has never seen before. Vint explains his spinning attack is an upgrade, and Yuki's old style just cannot counter it anymore. This sharp-dressed gentleman just stares him down, declaring Yuki's strength is still incomplete. Elvena's out for the count, leaving a battered Yuki desperately trying to figure out his next move. Towering over our boy, Vint raises his sword under the moonlight, ready to bring it down hard. This purple blade fills his vision, coming straight down for a very personal haircut. But it just slams into the ground inches from his face, and Yuki stares, completely bewildered. His companion clarifies that Liber's orders were keep him alive, so this is just some friendly training to avoid an oopsie. With the sword still planted in the ground, the guy just tells him to stand up. Our boy gets a spark of hope, asking if they are really helping him against their own boss's wishes. But the gentleman explains Liber gave them free rein on the asterisk method, entrusting it to their judgment. This whole mess, he adds, is a golden opportunity for all the human-hating monsters to make their move. Elsewhere, some other poor soul is stuck holding back that anti-human faction, and it is not clear how long he will last. So for the sake of the dungeon's future, Yuki needs a serious power-up like yesterday. Now standing, Yuki turns to Elvena, who is in full-on pouty chibai mode, and asks if she can stand. Popping back to her regular size, Elvena tells him to wait a sec so she can fix his arm. Yuki recognizes this training for what it is, another dance with death, and says he is prepared. His impromptu trainer seems to approve of this death-defying attitude, but adds the threat that if Yuki cannot handle it, he is getting dragged right back to Liber himself. All business now, our boy just asks what he needs to do to get started. This guy's eyes practically glow as he gives the first and only instruction, level up. And the training goal is set, get strong enough to use multiple summons simultaneously or else. Yuki immediately pokes a hole in the plan, pointing out he cannot level up his stats in this dungeon. His trainer agrees that is true for raw stats, leaving a confused Chibai Yuki wondering what is next. But skills are a different beast entirely, since they can be strengthened through pure battle experience. Our boy remembers that is exactly how he mastered his Blood Blossom style, by fighting for his life. This gentleman reveals skills have levels too, and the real goal is to power level Yuki's summoning ability. He needs to push that skill to its absolute limit and then crave going even further, no pressure of course. And the simple solution to that problem arrives in the form of a whole lot of monster feat. This training regimen is simple, fight stronger monsters and a whole lot more of them at once. Yuki is just floored, realizing his old monster summons are all here to help him train. He thanks his monster squad for bringing him back, seeing a whole lineup of familiar toothy faces. One of his horn summons gets hyped, declaring this time he is the one doing all the smashing. This gentleman calls in another summon, Mei, who is apparently the designated healer for this death march. Seeing Mei makes Yuki realize just how serious this whole setup is getting. His trainer confirms it by revealing they have dedicated an entire floor of the dungeon to this little project. This is the maximum number of monsters he can use, and their only job is to fight and get healed endlessly. He basically just built Yuki a custom monster house, an XP grinder's paradise or hell depending on your view. Meanwhile, the gentleman summons a blonde magic user who complains about taking orders but agrees for her disciple. She offers to lend Yuki a rare reference book through a magical call, because reading is fundamental even mid-beatdown. A spell called Live in Library activates, surrounding him with a massive green magic circle. Suddenly, Yuki's in a completely new space, surrounded by swirling energy and totally bewildered by the instant teleport. This blonde mage explains this pocket dimension runs on time magic from a legendary author. She lays out the rules. 3 hours of real time will give him 3 full days of training in here. Her gentleman companion adds that they have gathered the best possible monsters for this crash course. Yuki realizes he's been dropped into a monster house, a room designed to be a total death trap. But our boy is just grinning, knowing this custom-built hell is exactly what he needed. He immediately powers up his sword, declaring he is going all out from the very start. With a flash of purple energy, he dives headfirst into the chaotic fray without a second thought. This kid becomes a whirlwind of motion, taking on his entire summoned army at once. In the middle of the fight, he thinks back to how he used to despise all monsters, hating them for the dungeon collapse that wiped out everyone at his orphanage. This training is absolutely brutal, with one of his own summons slamming him to the ground. But his perspective started to change after his contract with Liber and being saved by Elvina. Then Vint and the others took him under their wing, forging him into something more. Now, facing his own monsters, he sees a completely different kind of fire in their eyes. He barely manages to block a bone-shattering punch from his horn summon, and uses the momentum to twist into a counter, refusing to give an inch. It is a full-on aerial assault as his entire monster squad descends on him from all sides. He remembers his past self, just a nobody F-rank adventurer, a simple pack mule, yet that same kid now has the gall to try and stop a dungeon collapse all on his own. And his first big move in this epic training arc is to summon a cutie bat, flawless strategy. His little bat buddy tops him off with some blood, a classic health potion with wings. Fully charged, Yuki unleashes his signature Blood Blossom Beautiful Blade, diving right back into the fray. Watching from the sidelines, Mei the healer warns that her magic might not be enough to patch him up this time. This old trainer is impressed, admitting Yuki has finally mastered the style and grown as a swordsman. So naturally, the gentleman decides to get serious and activates the exact same skill to show him how it is done. They clash in a dizzying aerial duel, painting the pocket dimension with streaks of blood-red energy. Yuki meets his blade head-on, eyes blazing with a newfound intensity. He is not backing down. His motivation flashes through his mind. He wants to protect both humans and monsters now. Fueled by this resolve, he screams that he is going to get even stronger for them. This training session ends with a massive burst of power, and suddenly he is gone, and we cut to Liber on his throne, looking mildly surprised to have company. Yuki stands before him, and the Demon Lord remarks he did not expect him to return so quietly. Liber gets a little snarky, asking if our boy got scared and ran back with his tail between his legs. But Yuki's not here to surrender. He is here to make a deal with the big boss himself. He reminds Liber of their first meeting when he vowed to use the monsters for humanity's sake. Things have changed, though he now sees them as comrades, even family. His new purpose, he declares, is to protect monsters just as much as he protects humans, leaving Liber speechless. Taking a firm step forward, Yuki proposes they redo their entire contract. This time, he wants a partnership on more equal terms, no more master-servant nonsense. Clutching his chest, he swears he will protect everyone and survive, no matter what it takes. Yuki makes his grand declaration to protect both humans and monsters. Liber just stares back, looking completely unimpressed by this heartfelt speech. Then he just bursts out laughing, showing off some very sharp dental work. This demon lord calls him a spoiled brat who just wants his selfish wish granted. Flaring up with power, he roars that Yuki has not changed one bit since they first met. He warns our boy that this naive attitude is going to make him lose everything. But Yuki stands firm, vowing he will not let that happen this time around. Getting right up in the Demon King's personal space, he declares he is going to use asterisk Liber. This bold statement gets a flicker of a reaction from the big boss. Yuki clarifies his goal, to use Liber's power to stop the dungeon collapse for good. He is not holding back this time, promising to exploit their contract to its absolute limit. Extending his hand, he proposes their new deal, a true partnership to protect everyone. Liber points out the obvious flaw: if Yuki fails, all of his monster followers will die anyway. He even smirks, noting this partnership sounds an awful lot like the threats he used to make. This Demon King flips the script, asking if this is not just a threat against humans now. Still, he is intrigued by this newfound backbone, admitting Yuki has definitely grown. Getting dangerously close, Liber grabs his hand with a predatory smile. He demands a solid plan because if Yuki's using him, failure is not an option. Our boy fires back with total confidence, promising to show him how to properly use a demon king. Meanwhile, an emergency quest is issued. A team is being sent to clear the dungeon immediately. This guild is in full-on panic mode with the advanced survey team finally back. And the news is bad. The dungeon's entire internal structure has warped into something new. A guild receptionist apologizes, explaining all normal operations are suspended for the emergency quest. But just then a familiar face steps up, announcing he is taking the emergency quest himself. This receptionist is floored, recognizing him as the guy who saw the whole mess start. Trying to stop him, she reveals that an S-rank is literally moments away from arriving. Right on cue, the S-rank makes his grand entrance, apologizing for the delay with maximum flair. This new guy casually offers to share a dungeon he just cleared, then asks where his companion is. He is visibly unimpressed, questioning if the party is really just one person. And it is Yuki who is completely stunned to see this S-rank as a guy named Kunin. Without another word, Kunin just grabs Yuki with some kind of shadow magic, announcing it is go time. In a flash, they are at the dungeon entrance, leaving our boy completely baffled by the instant travel. Kunin smugly reveals his S-rank exclusive magic tool, a personal teleporter for any dungeon on demand. He officially introduces himself, explaining he is the guild's mandatory babysitter for this quest. And of course, he immediately appoints himself leader, telling Yuki to just do as he is told. Kunin's already hyping himself up, claiming his presence alone gives them the strength of 100 people. Once inside, they are greeted by a hellish landscape, confirming his suspicion that the map is now junk. He admits shifting dungeons are one thing, but the named monster's reported skill is the real nightmare here. To get a better read on things, Yuki activates his keen eye skill, his vision sharpening. This gets a reaction out of Kunin, who is shocked to realize Yuki is a monster tamer. He thought he was classless. Kunin immediately puts Yuki to work, asking him to scout the main target in this hellscape. Our boy covers one eye, focusing his keen eye skill to get a read on the area. His scouting ability manifests as a literal giant eye in the sky. Subtlety is not in the budget. Through it, he spots a pack of creepy flower monsters and a lone straggler nearby. Having heard enough, Kunin cuts him off, ready to make his big S-rank move. He starts casting a spell with a whole lot of dramatic hand gestures and blue sparkles, and summons a swarm of ice piranhas with a skill called Fist Bait, a truly inspired name. These frozen fish immediately dive-bomb the flower monsters, clearing the way instantly. Yuki is shocked, realizing Kunin is using a close-range bait spell from a massive distance. He asks if the S-rank somehow modified the magic to extend its effective range. Kunin just smirks, impressed Yuki knows his stuff, then asks what other tricks our boy has. In response, Yuki summons a massive fire-breathing bird to show he is not just a scout. But Kunin casually deflects the fire blast with his own purple void saber skill. This S-rank realizes Yuki is not countering with an element, but using anti-magic to nullify it. Just then, the entire dungeon starts to violently shake and crumble around them. Yuki panics, shouting that the whole structure is reconstructing itself all over again. From the ground erupts a massive, roaring plant-based monstrosity, causing the tremor. For a second, our boy thinks it is a dragon, but his keen eye reveals the truth. This thing is literally using the dungeon as its body, controlling the terrain with plant magic. Kunin puts it all together. The other monsters were just lookouts, and it is time to fight the real boss. This massive plant boss roars to life, its fleshy tendrils lashing out to attack. Kunin immediately throws up a defensive barrier, telling Yuki to attack while he holds it off. He's got a plan for big monsters like this, but first he needs Yuki to break its stance. Without hesitation, Yuki agrees to create the opening, calling on a summon to do the job. And his brilliant strategy is to summon a dynamic cancer, a name that inspires pure confidence. This little green brawler starts wailing on the boss, earning a snarky comment from Kunin about his methods. This plant monster absolutely shrieks, clearly not enjoying its sudden case of dynamic cancer. But the boss retaliates with a massive swipe, sending the little green guy flying. That was the opening Kunin needed, praising Yuki's work and telling him to hurry. With the boss off balance, the S-rank unleashes a massive spell called Ice Kingdom. In an instant, the entire dungeon floor is frozen solid, stunning Yuki with its sheer power. Kunin explains this move locks the boss down, buying them some precious time to regroup. Our boy is just staring, completely flabbergasted by this casual display of S-rank might. Seeing this, Kunin changes his tune, telling Yuki he is officially free to act on his own now. Yuki, ever the overthinker, immediately assumes he is being demoted for messing up. But Kunin clarifies that his skills are more than good enough to keep up with an S-rank. He is taking the kid gloves off, which Yuki admits actually makes things easier for him. Then it clicks. Yuki realizes Kunin is the legendary leader of the Golden Age party, famous for his commands. Kunin admits he'd rather be fighting on the front lines, but he is usually stuck babysitting people. Which means this whole time, the S-rank has not even been trying, and now he is finally getting serious. Yuki gets this determined look in his eye, ready to prove he is not just some tag-along. Kunin smirks, asking if our boy can finally keep up without being told exactly what to do. A whole flashback montage hits him, and Yuki realizes he has actually closed the gap since his journey began. With a newfound confidence, he agrees he knows what is needed. This is what being S-rank is all about. Suddenly, the mana shifts, and a thick purple haze surrounds them. They have reached the final floor. Using his keen eye, Yuki confirms their target, a monster named Zeras, is just ahead. Kunin immediately gets down to business, asking Yuki if he is familiar with a spell called Time to Sell. Our boy is a quick study, explaining it is a time-based spell that traps a target in slow-motion subspace. Impressed, Kunin reveals that very spell is why he was deployed. It is the perfect counter for a dungeon collapse. This plan, illustrated by some adorable chibis, is to hit the boss with it and buy time for everyone to escape. But there is a catch: the spell has a long cast time and a pathetically short range, even for an S rank. Yuki immediately understands his role in this little play. He just needs to create an opening. Kunin gives him the exact time frame. He needs to hold the line for 180 seconds while the spell charges. 3 minutes to survive against a final boss. What could possibly go wrong? Just then, a heavy footstep echoes through the chamber, announcing their guest has arrived. This ground cracks under the immense pressure as the boss finally makes its grand entrance. From the shadows emerges a massive, hulking silhouette ready to greet them. This new boss, Zeras, seems surprised they are even here, boasting that his skill usually handles intruders quickly. To emphasize his point, he casually blows the massive chamber doors right off their hinges. But his smug expression immediately turns to shock. Something is clearly not going according to his plan. Kunin says he will only use the time spell as a last resort, flexing his absurdly fast boss clear time. Our boy is impressed by the S-Rank's confidence, revealing he has got his own trump card ready to go. And with that, the two of them charge forward together, ready to stop this dungeon collapse for good.